Chapter 307. Swoosh. After leaving Danwu College, Ningyu quickly advanced according to the feedback from the semicircular pendant. However, just as he flew to the city gate, Ningyu stopped. This was because he realized that the semicircular pendant had suddenly stopped shaking and became abnormally quiet. It's nearby. The Red Devil is nearby. Standing on the spot, Ningyu released his soul perception, trying to find the location of the Red Devil. Even after unleashing all of his peak 4th grade soul power, Ningyu still couldn't find the Red Devil. Where is it? It's impossible for it to disappear for no reason. Gritting his teeth, Ningyu took out the semicircular pendant from his storage ring and held it in his hand. Furthermore, Ningyu separated a wisp of his soul power into the pendant, trying to stimulate the Red Devil's main body. Swoosh! Before Ningyu's soul power could reach the area where the Red Devil's main body was, the pendant left his hand and fled into the distance. Damn it! The pendant suddenly flew away, completely out of Ningyu's expectations. He cursed inwardly and immediately raised his speed to the limit, chasing after the pendant. Poochie! At the same time, in a certain dense forest, a man in red spat out a mouthful of blood, staring at an old man in front of him. Old fart. What did you do to the Dark Emperor? Hee, don't worry. That dead dog is a bit special. I kept it to study it. It's not in danger now. Looking at the Red Devil, the old man shook his head and curled his lips. Relatively speaking, you don't have such good luck. Patriarch, that black dog has been subdued by us. Do you think it's time to fulfill some promises? Beside him, Lu Quan said hesitantly. During the encirclement of the Dark Emperor, Lu Quan, Yang Xiao, and Chai Wei had contributed a lot. Lu Quan and Yang Xiao had even been injured. After subduing the Dark Emperor, Lu Quan asked Patriarchy about the reward, but Patriarchy kept dragging it out. Seeing that even the Red Devil was about to be subdued, Lu Quan felt that he had to ask for the reward. Otherwise, if Patriarchy left with the Red Fiend, wouldn't their efforts be in vain? After the great battle with the Dark Emperor, LV Quan and the others already knew that Patriarchy was not weak and was even stronger than the three of them. Only by asking for payment before dealing with the Red Fiend could he ensure that his efforts would not be in vain. Humph! I'm not a man who doesn't keep his promise. After I get rid of this red-robed man, I'll naturally give you the reward. With a cold snort, Clan Master he took the lead and charged toward Hong Mo, seeing Patriarchy charging at him. Hong Mo gritted his teeth and charged forward instead of retreating. He threw a backhand punch that collided with Patriarchy's fist. Kacha! A crisp sound rang out. Hong Mo's body fell backward like a kite with a broken string. LV Quan, bring him here. After that strike, Patriarchy did not continue. Instead, he said to LV Quan and the others, when you return, I will give you the rewards. Exchanging glances, LV Quan and the others' eyes were filled with excitement. Without much time to think, LV Quan, Yang Xiao, and the others immediately charged toward Hong Mo. Under the temptation of the huge reward, their speed was very fast. They were so fast that they arrived before Hong Mo in an instant. You can't blame us for this. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for offending. Oh no! LV Quan was just about to cast a spell to take Hong Mo away when his expression changed drastically. He immediately turned his head around. However, LV Quan was obviously half a beat slower. Just as he turned his head around, he saw a fist gradually expanding in front of his eyes. Finally, it landed heavily on his skull. Bang! The next moment, his brain exploded. Red, black, purple, all of it burst out. Run! The moment they saw LV Quan's tragic death, Yang Xiao and Chai Wei only had one thought in their minds, and that was to run. Bang! Bang! However, before they could make it far, they ended up like LV Quan. Their heads exploded from the fist. Lu Hao, do you think we need to do anything to deal with these small fries? After killing LV Quan and the others, two silhouettes appeared. One of them was a man in a light blue shirt. He approached Patriarchy and said, there are still 2 weeks until the Alchemy Union's alchemy competition. At this critical juncture, our identities must not be exposed. Otherwise, all our efforts will go to waste. Lu Hao, we've been planning this for a long time. If there's a mistake, you should know the consequences, the other martial artist said in a low voice. Hee, Shen Yong, Fan Qing, I know what I'm doing. There won't be any mistakes. Patriarch, he transformed from an old man to a young man in his mid-20s. It's always better to be careful. After some thought, Shen Yong asked, how's your art of devouring going? I heard that the entire He family, young and old, were killed by you. At the mention of the art of devouring, Lu Hao was enraged. He said angrily, it's all that stupid dog's fault. I was about to succeed, but he suddenly appeared and ruined my plans. This caused the art of devouring to not be fully mastered. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked for your help. Looking at the corpses of LV Quan and the others not far away, Lu Hao's lips curled into a smile. The three of them are from second-rate families. With their corpses, I can sneak into their families without anyone knowing. No. At this moment, Fan Qing said coldly, ever since you annihilated the He family, the old monsters in the capital seem to have noticed something. It's better not to cause any trouble for now. All right, some time ago, the 6th to 12th ranked martial artists of the Ghost Town Hall were all killed. The Hall Master asked you to investigate who did it, Fan Qing said as he suddenly remembered something. Those pieces of trash were killed. Lu Hao was stunned, unable to believe it. Although the 6th to 12th ranked martial artists of the Ghost Town Hall were not strong, and there were many martial artists who could kill them, Lu Hao was still puzzled. Who would have the guts to kill 7 geniuses of the Ghost Town Hall at once? Nodding, Fan Qing said, that's right, the Hall Master was furious. He ordered you to investigate this matter as soon as possible. Understood. Lu Hao took a deep breath and said in a low voice, if that's the case, the two of us should hurry back to the capital to avoid arousing the suspicions of the Alchemy Union. As he spoke, Fan Qing and Shen Yong turned to leave. However, just as they turned, they raised an eyebrow and stopped in their tracks. Whoosh! Not far away, a figure was speeding towards them. As they gazed at the figure that ceaselessly approached them, Fan Qing and Shen Yong's pupils constricted slightly because they noticed that the figure's speed was extremely swift, and it was even half a beat faster than them. After all, both of them were in the early primal core stage. They were the 3rd and 4th ranked geniuses of the Ghost Town Hall. Who was this martial artist in front of them? Why was his speed so terrifying at such a young age? Ningyu, leave now. Chapter 308. Oh, there's a helper. Looking at the incoming martial artist, the corner of Lu Hao's lips curled up, and he smirked. Let me meet him. Lu Hao, be careful. He's not simple, Fan Qing warned, seeing that Lu Hao was about to make a move. Understood. With that, Lu Hao dashed forward like a sharp sword. An early primal core warrior, Ningyu's eyes turned cold, and the Yuan Qi in his consciousness swept out and gathered on his wrist. His speed did not slow down, but increased, arriving before Lu Hao in an instant. Then, 2 fists that contained violent Yuan Qi collided with each other. Crack! Ah! The sound of cracking, accompanied by a pig's squeal, rang out in the area. Ningyu did not stop there. Instead, he swung his fist again. His fist gradually enlarged in Lu Hao's eyes, and finally smashed into Lu Hao's chest. Crack! Crack! Lu Hao had already suffered serious injuries from that blow. Against Ningyu's fist, he was naturally defenseless. 2 consecutive crisp sounds rang out, and Lu Hao's body flew back several feet, landing heavily on the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. In the distance, seeing Lu Hao's quick defeat, Fan Qing and Shen Yong's expressions darkened. Swoosh! Swoosh! The 2 of them dashed out and arrived in front of Lu Hao almost instantly. They then brought Lu Hao to the side. Puffed. Lu Hao had already broken 2 of his ribs, and now that he was dragged away by Shen Yong, he suffered another injury. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, his face as ugly as a pig's liver. Damn it, I only have 30% of my peak strength. Clenching his fists, Lu Hao glared at Ningyu viciously, wishing he could chop Ningyu into pieces. The last time he failed to cultivate the art of devouring, it left a hidden injury in Lu Hao's body, causing him to only have 30% of his peak strength. If Lu Hao wanted to return to his peak condition, he must successfully cultivate the art of devouring, or his strength would never improve. Although he easily defeated Lu Hao, Ningyu did not let his guard down, because he realized that the truly powerful ones were the two martial artists beside Lu Hao. With Ningyu's keen senses, he could naturally tell that Lu Hao was not at his peak condition. Therefore, defeating Lu Hao with ease was not a big deal. The two martial artists beside Lu Hao were different. The yuan qi in their bodies was vigorous and stable. With one look, one could tell that he was a powerful expert. Fortunately, I advanced to the middle stage of the true martial realm and also divided the phantom Golden Dan into 4. Fan Xing and Qinyang's formidable strength caused Ningyu to gasp. If he had not advanced to the middle stage of the true martial realm, he would not have been a match for any one of them. Even so, Ningyu was extremely careful. It would be fine if it was just one of them, but he didn't have much confidence in dealing with two at the same time. "Kid, you injured Lu Hao. You have to leave something behind," Fan Xing said darkly. "I have a lot of things on me. It depends on whether you have the strength to take them," Ningyu said coldly as he quietly gripped the soul-severing sword in his hand. "Ha ha ha." Fan Xing laughed out loud, then changed the topic and said coldly, "The things that Fan Xing, want to take, I have never failed. Since you are so arrogant, I will take your head." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Fan Xing rose from the ground with a whistling yuan qi gale around him. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Ningyu. Immediately, Fan Xing's right hand suddenly punched out, aiming at Ningyu's head. "Kid, I have to say, you are really arrogant. You didn't even dodge my punch with 80% of my strength." Seeing that his fist was about to hit Ningyu's head, while Ningyu stood there in a daze, Fan Xing's mouth unnaturally curled up as he said sinisterly, "After image?" However, what happened next made Fan Xing's pupil shrink. Unknowingly, Ningyu had already appeared behind him. The soul-severing sword was raised and aimed at the back of his head. Feeling the strong wind coming from behind, Fan Xing did not have time to think and immediately moved his body to the side. Whoosh! Fortunately, Fan Xing moved his body in time, otherwise his head would have been cut in half. It is impossible to beat Ningyu in speed. Gritting his teeth, Fan Xing decided not to compete with Ningyu in speed. Instead, he displayed the power of an early primal core practitioner, wanting to overwhelm Ningyu in terms of aura. Unbeknownst to him, to overwhelm Ningyu in terms of aura, even a peak primal core practitioner could not do it, unless it was an yin-yang realm practitioner, and the strength of his soul power was not lower than the 6th grade. Solitaire. Ningyu did not have time to waste with Fan Xing here. His powerful senses detected that the aura of the Red Devil in the distance was weak. If he was not treated in time, it was likely that his spiritual body would be damaged. The spiritual body of a sword was different from a practitioner. Once the spiritual body was damaged, it would require the use of the physical body to fully recover. Now that the physical body of the Red Devil was trapped in the pendant, it would be impossible for him to come out in a short period of time. Therefore, Ningyu had to save the Red Devil immediately and treat him. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The yuan qi in a virtual golden core burst out and gathered on the soul-severing sword. The soul-severing sword vibrated at an extremely strange frequency as Ningyu waved his palm. Then, the soul-severing sword flew out of Ningyu's hand and floated in midair. Buzz, buzz! The next moment, a sword wave containing a monstrous yuan qi broke away from the soul-severing sword. Whoosh, whoosh! The moment the solitaire appeared, it dispersed Fan Xing's early primal core aura. After dispersing Fan Xing's aura, the solitaire did not stop. Instead, it sped up again and pierced Fan Xing's chest under his horrified gaze. Corpse Light Shield. At the critical moment, Fan Xing forced out a drop of blood essence and quickly formed a seal with both hands. As Fan Xing's palm moved quickly, a dark green light shield formed in front of him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as the dark green light shield formed, the solitaire in midair appeared in front of Fan Qing. Under his gloomy gaze, it collided with the dark green light shield. What happened next was a little beyond Ning Yu's expectations. In the confrontation with the dark green light shield, the solitaire did not gain the upper hand. Instead, it seemed to be at a slight disadvantage. This corpse light shield is actually formed by the yin qi of the dead. Staring at the dark green light shield in front of Fan Qing, Ning Yu could not help but gasp. This was the first time he had seen so much yin qi of the dead. Whoosh! At this moment, the corpse light shield and the solitaire disappeared at the same time. The disappearance of the solitaire did not affect Ning Yu, but Fan Qing was not so lucky. In order to use the corpse light shield, he not only used all the yin qi of the dead in his body, but also burned a drop of blood essence. The disappearance of the corpse light shield meant that he had completely lost these things. To Fan Qing, even if he lost his blood essence, he could still cultivate it back. Chapter 309. Xinyong, if you don't strike now, when will you? Forcefully suppressing the restless yuan qi in his body, Fan Qing shouted at Xinyong. This kid is not simple. Let's work together to take him down. Understood. Xinyong had watched the entire exchange between Ning Yu and Fan Qing. He was also a little shocked by Ning Yu's formidable strength. In the Ghost Talent Palace, Fan Qing was ranked 4th, and he was ranked 3rd. Although his strength was a little stronger than Fan Qing's, it was not by much. If Ning Yu could defeat Fan Qing, he could naturally defeat him. Soul Thrust. Xinyong's eyes turned cold as he rushed forward. At the same time, the soul power in his body swept out like crazy, transforming into a flying soul sword that pierced towards Ning Yu. The strength of an early-stage, 5th-grade soul power. Sensing the strength of Xinyong's soul power, Ning Yu could not help but smile. I can even devour Wei Zhe's peak 5th-grade soul power. If you use your soul power to fight me, you will only die. With a low growl, Ning Yu held the Absolute Soul Sword in his hand and rushed forward. The Absolute Soul Sword was a devouring flying sword and had an extremely powerful devouring ability. Xinyong's soul power was only at the early stage 5th grade. Although it had transformed into the shape of a flying soul sword, in Ning Yu's opinion, it would not be difficult to devour it. Oomph! My flying soul sword can even shatter a mid-grade heaven-level flying sword, not to mention your low-grade heaven-level flying sword. Xinyong snorted, as if he could see the absolute soul sword being shattered. After all, Xinyong was an early-stage primal core martial artist. His sharp senses had long discovered that the Absolute Soul Sword was a low-grade heaven-level flying sword, but he did not know that it was a devouring flying sword. If Xinyong had known that the Absolute Soul Sword was a devouring flying sword, he would not have used the Soul Thrust. Chi-Chi. The next moment, the Absolute Soul Sword and Xinyong's flying soul sword collided. As the two collided, Xinyong let out a scream and hurriedly tried to retract the flying soul sword. This was because he discovered that a powerful attractive force was being emitted from the Absolute Soul Sword. This suction force was extremely terrifying. It was so terrifying that it absorbed 1/10 of his soul force in an instant. At this rate of absorption, it wouldn't be long before his soul force was sucked dry. As the 3rd-ranked genius of the Ghost Talent Hall, Xinyong had an extremely important mission in the capital. If his soul force was devoured, or if he suffered a heavy injury, it would be a fatal obstacle for him to complete his mission. Therefore, no matter what, Xinyong had to ensure that his soul power was intact. Damn it! However, no matter how hard Xinyong tried, he could not retract his soul power into his body. This discovery caused Xinyong's pupils to constrict slightly, and he revealed a terrified expression. Cursing inwardly, Xinyong shouted at Fan Qing and Lu Hao, "Both of you, quickly unleash your soul energy and help me deal with this devouring flying sword." Devouring flying sword. Upon hearing Xinyong's words, Fan Qing and Lu Hao's expressions changed drastically. They also knew how terrifying the devouring flying sword was. Those who went against the devouring flying sword never had a good ending. In the best-case scenario, one soul force would be devoured, and in the worst-case scenario, one would turn into an idiot. However, Shen Yong was ranked 3rd in the Ghost Talent Hall, and he was also the leader of this mission. The two of them were helpless and could only obey his orders and unleash their soul force. However, Fan Qing and Lu Hao held back and did not unleash their full soul force. Instead, they only used 80% of their soul force. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds: where there is life, there is hope. 1 peak rank, 4 soul force, 2 early stage rank, 5 soul forces. Initially, Ningyu's soul force had the absolute upper hand, and it would not take more than a quarter of an hour to completely devour Shen Yong's soul force. However, with the addition of Fan Qing and Lu Hao's soul force, the battle was instantly reversed, and Ningyu's soul force was slightly at a disadvantage. Seeing this, Ningyu did not dare to be careless, and quickly controlled the peak rank, 4 soul force to pour out, and entered the soul-severing sword in one go. With the subsequent replenishment of soul force, coupled with the soul-severing sword's ability to devour flying swords, Ningyu once again regained the upper hand. Although Ningyu had the upper hand, it was extremely difficult to devour the soul force of Shen Yong and the others. At the very least, he would not be able to succeed in a short period of time. Turning his head to look at the fallen red devil, Ningyu gritted his teeth, and from his sea of consciousness, 4 illusory golden cores swept out and floated above his head. Illusory golden cores? 4 illusory golden cores. A martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm actually has an illusory golden core. Seeing the illusory golden cores above Ningyu's head, Shen Yong and the other 2 were instantly dumbfounded and stood rooted to the ground. As the peerless geniuses of the Ghost Talent Hall, they had seen many martial artists and had also seen many geniuses that were comparable to them. However, in their impression, they had never seen someone as abnormal as Ningyu, who was only in the middle stage of the true martial realm and was able to cultivate an illusory golden core. Secret technique. It must be some kind of secret technique. He can't possibly have 4 illusory golden cores. Suddenly, Shen Yong shouted, "Let Ningyu see what a real golden core is." As his voice fell, a fist-sized golden core swept out of Shen Yong's body and floated above his head. Swoosh! Swoosh! At the same time, Fan Qing and Lu Hao also released their golden cores, which hovered above their heads. Compete with him in terms of yuan qi density. Whoosh! In the next moment, the yuan qi in Shen Yong's golden core poured out and attacked Ningyu without a care for his life. As for Fan Qing and Lu Hao, they were not idle either. The yuan qi in both of their golden cores also swept out and madly rushed towards Ningyu. Seeing the 3 sudden yuan qi light waves, Ningyu was not sad, but happy, and the corner of his mouth slightly curled up. Boom! 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 Following that, 3 equally powerful yuan qi light waves swept out from Ningyu's illusory golden core, and under the surprised gazes of Shen Yong and the others, collided with their yuan qi light waves. Kaboom! The moment the 6 powerful yuan qi light waves collided, the heavens and the earth seemed to dim. The dimming of the heavens and the earth did not stop the yuan qi waves from spreading out. Whoosh! Seeing that the yuan qi waves were about to hit him, Shen Yong displayed the corpse-light shield and enveloped the 3 of them within it. Whoosh! The yuan qi light waves collided with the corpse-light shield and disappeared in an instant. Ningyu, this yuan qi wave is enough to make you suffer. After withstanding the yuan qi wave, the corner of Shen Yong's mouth curled up, and he looked at Ningyu with a sinister smile. Don't worry about it. To deal with this yuan qi wave, Ningyu had already thought of a countermeasure. A powerful beam of light swept out from his 4th illusory golden core and collided with the yuan qi wave. The result was unsurprising. In the blink of an eye, the yuan qi wave turned into nothingness and disappeared without a trace. If you were mid-primal core martial artists, I might be a little afraid, but now... Chapter 310. if you want us to die here, let's see if you have the ability to do so. With a cold snort, Chen Yong opened his mouth and a ray of cold light shot out from it, heading straight for Ningyu's head. Chi-chi. The cold light was extremely fast, leaving behind an afterimage in the air. Dark gold spirit corpse, spectral spirit corpse. Seeing that the cold light was about to reach him, Ningyu summoned the dark gold spirit corpse and spectral spirit corpse. Although the dark gold spirit corpse and spectral spirit corpse only had the strength of a half-step primal core realm, their use was extremely obvious at this juncture. Whether it was him, Chun Yong, or the rest, none of them dared to move recklessly. Go, tear Chen Yong to shreds for me. The instant the dark gold spirit corpse appeared, Ningyu shouted in a low voice. Ming Bai. A powerful voice slowly sounded out from the dark gold spirit corpse's mouth. Then it suddenly dashed out and charged at Chen Yong. As for the spectral spirit corpse, it blocked in front of Ningyu, and under Chen Yong's shocked gaze, it swallowed the cold light thrown out into its stomach. Gulp! The spectral spirit corpse's actions caused Chen Yong to swallow a mouthful of saliva. The cold light he threw out was extremely corrosive, and if an ordinary martial artist touched it, they would lose a layer of skin even if they didn't die. However, ghost corpses were different. Ghost corpses were modified by ghost spirit pills. Unless a powerful force was used to shatter the ghost corpse's head, it would be like an undying body and could continue to fight. While Chen Yong was slightly stunned, the dark gold spirit corpse had already arrived in front of him, its steel-like fist smashing towards his head. Damn it! Secretly cursing, Chen Yong could only raise his right arm and clash head-on with the dark gold spirit corpse. Kacha! Before he fought with Ningyu, Chen Yong could smash a half-step primal core realm dark gold spirit corpse with one punch. After exchanging blows with Ningyu, he was completely restricted. He didn't dare to use his soul energy or Yuan Qi. Losing these two powerful aids, his arm was almost smashed by the dark gold spirit corpse's heavy fist. A squeal that sounded like a pig being slaughtered rang out in the area, causing the pupils of Fan Qing and Lu Hao to shrink, revealing expressions of fear. However, Fan Qing and Lu Hao did not dare to retract their soul force and Jindan. They understood the principle of starting with a spurt of energy, then weakening by the second, and then exhausting by the third. It could be said that as long as they retracted their soul force, Ningyu would follow up with another attack. At that time, it wouldn't be as simple as facing the dark gold spirit corpse, and it was even to the extent that their lives would be in danger. Shen Yong, quickly think of a way. If this goes on, we'll be blasted into idiots by the dark gold spirit corpse sooner or later. Fan Qing shouted with an extremely anxious tone. I'm F*King thinking too, Shen Yong shouted in a low voice. The anxiety on his face was no less than Fan Qing's. Bang! Bang! At that moment, the dark golden spirit corpse and the specter corpse burst out at the same time. One charged at Fan Qing, while the other charged at Lu Hao. Fan Qing and Shen Yong were naturally unable to withstand the dark gold spirit corpse and specter corpse. Two crisp sounds rang out in succession. Both of their chests were hit, and their bodies were on the verge of collapse. All right. Suddenly, Shen Yong seemed to have thought of something. He hurriedly scolded Lu Hao. Didn't you F*King catch a black dog? Hurry up and let it out. Use it to threaten Ningyu. F*CK. Why didn't I think of that? Lu Hao's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly took out a storage ring. He carefully separated a bit of soul force into the storage ring in an attempt to release the Dark Emperor. Ningyu was here to save the Red Fiends, and the Red Fiends were in cahoots with the Dark Emperor. From this, it seemed that as long as he used the Dark Emperor to threaten Ningyu, Ningyu would definitely give in. In Lu Hao's mind, as long as he could force Ningyu to withdraw his soul force, everything would be very easy. Dark Gold Spirit Corpse, Spectre Corpse, snatched that storage ring. The moment Lu Hao took out the storage ring, Ningyu's heart sank. He said in a low voice, "Use all methods, including self-destruction." Ningyu also knew the severity of the situation. No matter what, he had to snatch the storage ring before the Dark Emperor came out, or the consequences would be dire. Self-destruction. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Lu Hao could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. How powerful would the self-destruction of a half-step Yuan dance stage Dark Gold Spirit Corpse and Spectre Corpse be? Under their self-destruction, even a mid-Yuan dance stage martial artist would not be able to escape unscathed. Ning Yu, if you dare to let them self-destruct, I will dare to kill that damn dog. Lu Hao clenched his teeth as he held the storage ring in his hand. At most, we will perish together. Ning Yu was betting that Lu Hao would not dare to kill the Dark Emperor. If he won the bet, there was still a chance of survival. If he lost the bet, at most, they would perish together. Fighting 1 against 3 might seem crazy, but Ning Yu knew that if this continued, it would be very disadvantageous for him. After all, there were 3 of them, and he was alone. He had no help. If we perish together, so be it. Who's afraid of who? Seeing Lu Hao's expression change, Shen Yong shouted, "Fine, you forced me to do this." Clenching his fists, Ning Yu growled, "Dark Gold Spirit Corpse, Spectre Corpse, self-destruct. I don't believe you dare to let them self-destruct. Damn, are you for real?" Shen Yong seemed to have a card up his sleeve. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw something that made him extremely frightened. Not far away, the Dark Gold Spirit Corpse and Spectre Corpse gradually expanded. In the end, they expanded to the limit. Rumble. In the next moment, the Dark Gold Spirit Corpse and Spectre Corpse self-destructed simultaneously. An earth-shattering explosion sounded in the area. Quick run. Shen Yong was not an indecisive person. In the instant that the Dark Gold Spirit Corpse and Spectre Corpse self-destructed, he retracted his soul power, rose from the ground, and fled into the distance. As for Fanqing and Lu Hao, they also retracted their soul power and fled behind Shen Yong. Lu Hao even threw the storage ring in his hand into the air, fleeing for his life. Pucci, Pucci, Pucci. However, they had obviously underestimated the power of the 2 half-step Primal Core Realm Corpse's explosion. They had only fled a few meters when they were hit by the shockwave of the explosion and fell to the ground like a kite with its string cut. Swoosh! On the other hand, Ning Yu had poured all his soul power into the Phantom Armor, and the Yuan Qi under his feet burned like crazy. Raising his speed to the limit, he turned into a shadow in the air and caught the storage ring that Lu Hao threw out. Swoosh! Subsequently, Ning Yu turned around and flew toward the Red Devil. As he flew, Ning Yu shouted, "Red Devil, quickly enter the soul-severing sword." Buzz! The Red Devil used the last bit of his strength to transform into his original form, and when the shockwave of the explosion was about to reach him, he entered the soul-severing sword. Enter the storage ring. Subsequently, Ning Yu placed the soul-severing sword and Lu Hao's storage ring into the Sumeru storage ring. Rumble. After doing all this, the shockwave from the explosion of the Dark Gold Spirit Corpse and Spectre Corpse had already reached Ning Yu. Facing such a powerful shockwave, Ning Yu did not dare to be careless. He quickly enlarged the Phantom Armor, and his body shrunk into the Phantom Armor. The Phantom Armor was not only a flying treasure, but also a defensive treasure of the Phantom Rat clan. Chapter 311. Crack. The aftermath of the explosion hit the Phantom Armor in an instant. The powerful shockwave caused cracks to appear on the Mirage Armor. Moreover, as time passed, the cracks continued to expand. Damn it, hang in there. Seeing this, Ning Yu quickly wrapped the Yuan in his sea of consciousness around the surface of the Phantom Armor, hoping that it could help the Phantom Armor to offset some of the impact of the aftermath. Although the Phantom Armor was the treasure of the Phantom Rat clan, it was only a lower-grade heaven tier. If the Phantom Armor was a middle-grade heaven tier, or even upper-grade heaven tier, Ning Yu would naturally not be so worried. Ning Yu would be heartbroken if he lost the heaven-ranked, low-grade Phantom Armor. Chi. However, Ning Yu realized that just as his Yuan wrapped around the surface of the Phantom Armor, it was dispersed by the powerful aftermath. In other words, using Yuan to block the aftermath was not realistic. Soul power. At this juncture, Ning Yu could not care so much anymore. He immediately took out his peak grade 4 soul power and attached it to the Phantom Armor. Soul damage could slowly recover, but if a treasure like the phantom armor was destroyed, it would be gone in the future. After all, in this world, there are only 3 phantom armors. Relatively speaking, the defensive effect of soul power was much better than Yuan Qi. With the help of soul power, at least the phantom armor could be preserved. However, according to Ningyu's guess, if he preserved the phantom armor, he would lose at least a quarter of his soul power. Puff puff. The aftermath of the explosion of the dark gold spirit corpse and the specter corpse came and went quickly. 3 minutes later, the aftermath of the explosion had completely dissipated. After the aftermath dissipated, this area could only be described with one word: a complete mess. The surrounding trees were uprooted, and the ground was bare and empty. It could be said that within a few miles, other than Ningyu and the rest, not even a bird's feather could be seen. Ooh, letting out a long breath, Ningyu shook his wrist and took out the soul-severing sword. Whoosh! Then, the red devil turned into a shadow and appeared in front of Ningyu. Ningyu, there's not much time left. Hurry up and give me all the crystals on you. I want to enter the pendant. The moment the red fiend came out, he impatiently said to Ningyu, "You want to enter the pendant?" Hearing this, Ningyu was slightly startled. He immediately swung his sleeve and held the semicircular pendant in his hand. Xiao! Seeing the semicircular pendant, Hong Mo's eyes lit up. Without any hesitation, he turned into a shadow and entered the pendant. The red devil's actions caused Ningyu to be stunned on the spot. He didn't understand why the heavily injured red fiend would enter the pendant. Could it be that he wanted to communicate with his main body? Thinking of this, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat, and he knew that the situation was not good. The red devil's main body was trapped in the Big Dipper array. Ningyu had already witnessed the power of the Big Dipper array. It was extremely powerful. The heavily injured red devil couldn't even enter the 3rd layer of the pendant, let alone break the Big Dipper array. Hong Mo, come out. I want to check for you. Ningyu hurriedly inserted his soul power into the pendant, wanting to stop the red devil. However, Ningyu's soul power did not see the red devil in the first 2 layers of the pendant. It was only until the 3rd layer that he saw the red devil weakly lying in front of the Big Dipper array. Ningyu, I can feel that the main body is calling for me. Raising his head to look at Ningyu, the red devil used all his strength to say, "Please, I'm begging you this time. I'll pay you back double in the future." "What are you talking about? Your problem is my problem." With a low grunt, Ningyu put all the origin crystals on him into a storage bag and handed it to the red devil. Ningyu had a total of 12 million origin crystals and 90 million high-grade origin crystals on him. Giving so many origin crystals to the red devil, and possibly being used up by the red devil, it had to be said that Ningyu was really bold. However, in Ningyu's eyes, this was nothing. For a friend, he could do anything. After doing all this, Ningyu's soul power quietly withdrew from the 3rd layer of the pendant. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu took out Lu Hao's storage ring, and then used the remaining soul power to crazily attack the storage ring. The storage ring belonged to Lu Hao. If Ningyu wanted to break the storage ring, he naturally needed to erase Lu Hao's soul power first. Now that Lu Hao was heavily injured, he had no way to resist. In just a moment, the soul imprint that he had engraved on the storage ring was erased by Ningyu. Whoosh! As soon as Lu Hao's soul imprint was erased from the storage ring, a black figure scuttled out from inside. I really King suffocated to death. If I didn't come out, I would have suffocated to death. After the black figure came out, he first took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. That expression could only be described with the word awesome. Dark Emperor, are you all right? The black figure was none other than the Dark Emperor. However, the current him did not look like the state that a prisoner should have. Of course I'm fine. If it wasn't for the fact that I swallowed too much, causing my combat power to drop, how could those old fools have caught me? The Dark Emperor raised his head and said, "This time, I benefited from a disaster. I digested all the things that I swallowed in the storage ring, and my cultivation advanced from half-step Origin Core Realm to Origin Core Realm. My strength has greatly increased. All right, we're those old fools. Suddenly, the Dark Emperor's eyes turned and looked around. When his gaze landed on Lu Hao, the Dark Emperor frowned. This was because he sensed an extremely familiar aura from Lu Hao. You are old fools, he? The Dark Emperor asked uncertainly. Tui, you're the old fools, he? Your whole family are old fools. Although he was seriously injured, Lu Hao's temper did not decrease at all. Dark Emperor, since you still have the ability to fight, quickly finish off these 3 corpse insect martial artists. If you delay, something unexpected will happen. Ningyu wanted to leave as soon as possible to recover his soul power, so he naturally did not want to stay here any longer. Hee, since you're trash from the corpse insect, you should all die. With a sinister laugh, the Dark Emperor rose from the ground and flapped his purple gold wings. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Lu Hao. Your mouth is the most despicable, so I'll start with you. The Dark Emperor raised the corner of his mouth and used his sharp claws to claw at Lu Hao's lips. Damn it! Seeing that the Dark Emperor was about to reach him, Lu Hao cursed inwardly and hurriedly said to Chun Yong and Fan Qing, at this time, why are you still holding back your trump cards? Hurry up and make your move. Where there's life, there's hope. Lu Hao knew that Chun Yong and Fan Qing had an important mission on this trip to the capital. They definitely had trump cards that the Hall Master had given them. What was the use of having trump cards when they were about to die? Crack, crack. Chun Yong clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. His expression was extremely gloomy. Let's go all out. Chapter 312. Crack. As soon as the black pill entered his stomach, Shenyang's bones started to crack, as if they were broken. Not long after, Shenyang's body grew a meter taller and became a giant. After his body grew bigger, Shenyang's aura also grew stronger. Early Yuan Core Stage. Peak Early Yuan Core Stage. Mid Yuan Core Stage. Peak Mid Yuan Core Stage. In just a few seconds, Shenyang's aura increased from the early Yuan Core Stage to the peak Mid Yuan Core Stage and continued to grow stronger. 3 seconds later, a muffled sound was heard and Shenyang's aura increased from the peak Mid Yuan Core Stage to the late Yuan Core Stage. Whoosh! At the same time, Fan Qing also took out a black pill and swallowed it in front of the Dark Emperor. Fan Qing's result was not much different from Shenyang's. In an instant, his cultivation increased from the early Yuan Core Stage to the late Yuan Core Stage. At this moment, the Dark Emperor had already arrived in front of Lu Hao, and its sharp claws tore Lu Hao's lips in half, causing blood to flow. Dark Emperor quickly finished the battle. If we delay, there might be changes. Shen Yong and the others were the top 5 geniuses of the corpse sect and had a high status in the corpse sect. Moreover, this place was very close to the capital, so Ningyu did not want to stay here for too long. Furthermore, the self-destruction of the Dark Gold Spirit Corpse and Ghost Spirit Corpse would definitely attract experts. If experts from the corpse sect came, the consequences would be unimaginable. With this in mind, Ningyu did not care about repairing his damaged soul force and immediately joined the battle with the soul-breaking sword. Ningyu, go kill Lu Hao. Leave these 2 pieces of trash to me. The Dark Emperor flapped the purple gold wings on his back and floated in the air. Comparing body size with me, you're destined to lose miserably. The corner of the Dark Emperor's lips curled up, and his body gradually expanded. As a member of the Sky-Devouring Dog clan, the Dark Emperor could already expand his body several times when he was at the peak of the true martial state. Now that he had advanced to the early Yuan Core Stage, he could expand his body countless times. Whoosh! After his body expanded, the Dark Emperor swung his tail towards Shun Yong and Fan Qing. Damn it, Lu Hao, why didn't you tell us it was a heaven-devouring hound? Shen Yong's pupils constricted as he looked at the huge tail sweeping towards him. He gathered all his essence into his arm, hoping to block the Dark Emperor's powerful attack. As a peerless genius of the Ghost Talent Hall, Shen Yong naturally knew how powerful the heaven-devouring hound was. Furthermore, this Sky-Devouring Dog was the emperor of the Sky-Devouring Dog clan, the purple-gold sky-devouring dog. Even though his cultivation level had risen to the late primal core stage, Shenyong did not dare to be careless. The slightest bit of carelessness would result in their deaths. Wu, with his lips torn by the Dark Emperor's sharp claws, Lu Hao could only make muffled sounds. "Stop whining. I'll send you to see your old ancestor corpsing now." At that moment, Ningyu appeared in front of Lu Hao. Under the latter's horrified gaze, the soul-severing sword in his hand slashed down. Lu Hao was only at the early primal core stage, and he was severely injured in the explosion just now, causing his strength to drop to a freezing point. Coupled with the powerful blow from the Dark Emperor, he had completely lost the ability to fight. The current Lu Hao, not to mention Ningyu, even a normal, early true martial realm martial artist could kill him. Ningyu had already given Lu Hao a lot of face by using his full strength. The next moment, a scream like that of a pig being slaughtered rang out in the area. "Pooh!" Ningyu slowly withdrew the soul-severing sword from Lu Hao's neck and said calmly, "With the 6th to 12th ranked martial artists of the Ghost Talent Hall accompanying you, you won't be lonely. They were all killed by you." Puff! Lu Hao's pupils constricted, and he raised his right hand to point at Ningyu. He wanted to say something, but before he could finish, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. At that moment, the 5th-ranked genius of the Ghost Talent Hall of the Corpsine sect, the early primal core stage Lu Hao, died a horrible death. After killing Lu Hao, Ningyu quickly shifted his gaze to the main battlefield. Kaboom! In midair, the Dark Emperor and Shenyong were fighting fiercely. They were actually evenly matched. Although the Dark Emperor did not show any signs of weakness, Ningyu had a worried look on his face. Just now, he had secretly released his soul power to detect the situation in the surroundings. In the direction of the capital, Ningyu could faintly sense 2 strong auras wavering. They seemed to want to come over, but they seemed to be afraid of something. Once they made up their minds to come over, it would be a disaster for Ningyu and the Dark Emperor. "Dark Emperor, leave Fan Qing to me. You use all your strength to kill Shenyong." Gritting his teeth, Ningyu rose from the ground and rushed towards Fan Qing with the soul-severing sword in his hand. "You only have 10 minutes, because I can only last 10 minutes against Fan Qing." Ningyu had lost a quarter of his soul power in the explosion just now, and Fan Qing had raised his cultivation level to the late primal core stage. Therefore, to be able to last 10 minutes in Fan Qing's hands was already Ningyu's limit. 10 minutes, that's enough. Originally, the Dark Emperor had a belly full of anger, but he had no way to kill Shenyong and the rest. Now that Ningyu had joined the battle, the pressure on him had been greatly reduced. He could fight to a draw when fighting 1 against 2. Now that it was a one-on-one, the Dark Emperor was confident that he could finish off Shenyong in 3 minutes. "Lad, if you want to kill me, you have to have the ability to do so." Seeing that Ningyu was rushing towards him, Fan Qing's lips curled up, and he said to Shenyong, "Give me 3 minutes. I'll come help you in 3 minutes." "Humph, boasting shamelessly. You want to defeat me in 3 minutes? You must be dreaming." With a cold snort, Ningyu waved the soul-severing sword in his hand and slashed out in an instant. Solitaire. As the soul-severing sword slashed out, a shocking sword wave appeared in the air and attacked Fan Qing. Solitaire was Ningyu's strongest move at this stage, and it was even more powerful than the Underworld Dominator Palm. Although it was only the Solitaire at the initial success realm, it was still capable of withstanding Fan Qing's powerful attack. After all, Ningyu did not intend to kill Fan Qing. He just wanted to stall with him for 10 minutes. Essence Chi Wave. Facing such a powerful sword wave in midair, Fan Qing grabbed the void with his palm, and a stream of essence was immediately caught in his hand. With a casual fling, this stream of essence headed for Solitaire. TSK, TSK. The sword wave and the essence Chi wave collided, and both sides dissipated between heaven and earth. "Lad, you do have some skills, but if that's all you have..." At this point, Fan Qing paused for a moment and then said, "Then die." As soon as he said that, Fan Qing's body could not help but tremble. This trembling did not last long, and it stopped when a small jade bottle appeared in Fan Qing's hand. Corpsine pill. Looking at the jade bottle in Fan Qing's hand, Ningyu's pupils constricted, and he could not help but take a few steps back. Ningyu had seen what was in the jade bottle in his previous life. It was the corpsine pill. Chapter 313. Strictly speaking, the corpse pill was considered a 7th-grade elixir. The most terrifying thing about the corpse pill was its strong corrosive ability. The corpse pill in Fan Qing's hand was only a low-grade corpse pill. Even so, Ningyu did not dare to let it stick to his body. As long as the powder of the corpse pill stuck to him, even if he had the physical strength of a primal core adept, he would instantly turn into nothingness. Swoosh! At this moment, the jade bottle in Fan Qing's hand suddenly flew out and attacked Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. In a flash, the jade bottle arrived in front of Ningyu. Explode! With a low shout from Fan Qing's mouth, the jade bottle suddenly exploded. Pung! After the jade bottle exploded, the corpse pill inside seemed to have received a strong impact and instantly turned into powder. Not good. Seeing this, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly waved the soul-severing sword, and in an instant, several sword gleams appeared. Whoosh! The sword gleams did not attack, but instead gathered around Ningyu, helping him block the powder of the corpse pill. Chi-chi! Ningyu had obviously underestimated the powerful corrosive ability of the corpse pill. The sword gleams that he had released only lasted for 3 seconds before completely turning into nothingness and dissipating from the heavens and earth. Damn it! Cursing, Ningyu gathered Yuan Qi at his feet and quickly retreated. What should I do? In the process of retreating, Ningyu's eyes darted around, thinking of a countermeasure. That's right. Suddenly, Ningyu's eyes lit up, and he took out the pill-quenching furnace. Swallow it! With a loud shout, Ningyu injected his soul power into the pill-quenching furnace, causing it to expand several times. Then, a terrifying suction force rushed out from the pill-quenching furnace. Under Fan Qing's horrified gaze, the surrounding powder of the corpse pill was all swallowed up. Everything before him made Fan Qing somewhat dumbfounded. The trump card that he was so proud of was actually absorbed by a broken pill-quenching furnace? This was 2F** King ridiculous. Fan Qing, 2 minutes have passed, but I'm standing here safe and sound. Putting the furnace into the storage ring, Ningyu said lightly. Brat, even without the corpse pill, I still have 100 ways to kill you. Fan Qing's expression was extremely ugly and gloomy to the extreme. He didn't expect the corpsine pill to fail to kill Ningyu. However, he did not mind. After all, with the help of elixirs, his cultivation level had risen to the late Yuan Dan stage, and he could still hold on for an hour. Ningyu was just at the early stage of the true martial realm. In terms of raw strength, he was much stronger than Ningyu. Next, I will let you know what is the realm of. However, before Fan Qing could finish speaking, his expression changed greatly. Pucci. Not far away, the Dark Emperor seized the opportunity and fiercely stabbed his front claws into Shenyang's heart. Ugh. Lowering his head to look at the dog claws in his heart, Shenyang opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but his body fell straight to the back. At this moment, Shenyang, who was ranked 3rd in the Goskai Hall of the Corpse Sect, died in battle. Seeing Shenyang being killed, Fan Qing's eyes were filled with disbelief. Although he knew how powerful the Dark Emperor was, in his opinion, no matter how powerful the Dark Emperor was, it was impossible to kill Shenyang in 2 minutes. Shenyang had also swallowed elixirs to raise his cultivation level to the late Yuan Dan stage. How did the Dark Emperor do it? Killing Shenyang in 2 minutes. Swoosh! After killing Shenyang, the Dark Emperor did not stay in place. Instead, he flapped his purple gold wings and quickly flew over. Not good. Only by capturing Ning will we have a chance of survival. Fan Qing was not a fool. Shenyang was defeated by the Dark Emperor. If he fought with the Dark Emperor, he would definitely not have a good ending. If he ran, he would definitely not be able to escape. The only thing he could do now was to capture Ningyu and use him to threaten the Dark Emperor. Solitaire. The moment the Dark Emperor killed Shenyang, Ningyu waved the broken soul sword in his hand and slashed out two powerful sword waves. The Dark Emperor had successfully killed Shenyang. Ningyu knew that he only needed to hold on for 3 seconds, because after 3 seconds, the Dark Emperor would arrive here. Two powerful solitaire formed and stopped in front of Ningyu. Chi. At the same time, Fan Xing arrived in front of Ningyu. His fist brought with it a strong gust of wind and instantly landed on the solitaire. The first second, the solitaire swayed a little, but it was still intact and stood in front of Ningyu. The second second, a solitaire was destroyed. The third second, the second solitaire swayed a little. The fourth second, just when Fan Xing raised his right hand and was about to attack the second solitaire, he saw Ningyu disappear from his sight and was replaced by a huge dog paw. Corpse sect bastard, remember, it was your grandfather who killed you. The Emperor of the Dark World smiled, and then his claws quickly slapped down. Under Fan Xing's horrified gaze, he slapped his face. Stab! 5 bloody claw marks appeared on Fan Xing's cheeks. Fan Xing was a little dazed, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Boring. Shrugging, the Dark Emperor's body floated in the air and pressed down on Fan Xing's body. Pucci. At this moment, Fan Xing, who was ranked 4th in the Corpse Sect's Goskai Palace, was killed. Up until now, the martial artists ranked 3rd to 12th in the Corpse Sect's Goskai Palace had all been killed by Ningyu and the Dark Emperor. After losing 10 peerless geniuses, one could imagine how angry the palace master of the Goskai Palace was. Hee. These 3 are all peerless geniuses of the Corpse Sect. They must have treasures on them. Let me check. The Dark Emperor chuckled and walked toward Shenyang. He didn't have time to search Shenyang's body. Now that he had time, the Dark Emperor couldn't miss this opportunity. Dark Emperor fast. Not good. Leave quickly. Originally, Ningyu wanted to remind the Dark Emperor to hurry up, but when the words were about to come out of his mouth, his pupils constricted. His figure flashed, and he flew away. What's going on? Hearing Ningyu's words, the Dark Emperor was a little confused and turned his head to look. Holy F***. The Dark Emperor was shocked by what he saw. He even cursed out loud. The reason for that was because he noticed that there were 2 swiftly moving figures nearby, and they were rushing over at an astonishing speed. At their speed, they would arrive in at most 1 minute. Having just experienced a big battle, the Dark Emperor was not at his peak. Even if he was at his peak, he didn't dare to stay here. After all, he could feel that the cultivation of the 2 martial artists in the distance was at least at the peak of the primal core stage. It was even possible that they were at the yin-yang stage. The Dark Emperor knew that at his peak, he could at most fight to a draw with a late primal core stage martial artist. Against a peak primal core, or even a yin-yang stage martial artist, there was only death. I'll let you guys off easy. The Dark Emperor glanced at Shun Yong greedily, then rose from the ground and chased after Ningyu in a few leaps. Whoosh! 30 seconds later, 2 martial artists in black slowly landed in this area. When they saw the 3 corpses lying on the ground, their eyes revealed an extremely shocked expression. Chapter 314. These 3 people from the Corpse Sect are not simple. The younger of the 2 black-clothed cultivators looked at the 3 corpses on the ground and said, "If I'm not wrong, they should be from the Corpse Sect's Ghost Talon Palace." The older cultivator frowned and said, "That's right, they are indeed from the Corpse Sect's Ghost Talon Palace. Moreover, their ranking is not lower than the top 5. Top 5. Hearing this, the younger cultivator's heart skipped a beat, and he was slightly surprised. The Corpse Sect's Ghost Talent Palace's martial artists were not weak, and since they dared to come to the capital, they must have a trump card. Who is it? To be able to kill 3 of the top 5 martial artists of the Ghost Talent Palace at once. This place is very close to the capital. Suddenly, the younger cultivator's expression changed, and he said, "Don't tell me they want to ruin the alchemy competition." The alchemy competition was a grand event held by the Alchemy Union. At that time, All the alchemy unions in the Great Xia country would send people to participate. Almost all the alchemy geniuses in the Great Xia country had gathered at this grand event. Even Danwu College had been specially invited to participate. If the corpse sect caused trouble, the consequences would be unimaginable. I have received reliable information that the corpse sect will definitely ruin this alchemy competition. The older cultivator said in a deep voice, "Immediately return to the capital and prepare the defenses. We must ensure that nothing goes wrong during the alchemy competition." Swish, swish. As soon as they finished speaking, the two martial artists' figures flashed and dashed towards the capital. Buzz. Not long after they disappeared, the space around them wriggled, and a man in a white robe quietly appeared. Looking at the three corpses on the ground, the man in white's expression was extremely gloomy. The people of the Ghost Talent Palace are not so easy to kill. While muttering, a crack appeared around the man in white. He waved his hand, and the corpses of Shun Yong and the others were thrown into the crack. Swish! Immediately, the man in white also entered the crack and disappeared. I'm so tired. In the dense forest, Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor flew at full speed for 2 hours before stopping under a towering tree. The Dark Emperor sat down under a tree and gasped for breath. This is 2F** King Regretful. Those three are geniuses of the corpse sect. No matter what, they should have at least 100 million high-grade origin crystals on them. Yet, those two experts got away with it. Don't think too much. Take advantage of the fact that this place is still safe to rest up. After that, we will rush back to the capital. Ningyu released his soul power. After confirming that this place was safe, he let out a sigh of relief. It's just that I've expended a lot of my energy. I'll be able to recover to my peak by devouring some origin crystals, the Dark Emperor said, waving his claws. Take out all the origin crystals you have. I'm going to devour them. I don't have a single crystal on me right now. Spreading his hands, Ningyu said, just now, I gave more than 10 million supreme-grade essence crystals to Hong Mo F***CK. Hearing Ningyu's words, the Dark Emperor couldn't help but curse. More than 10 million supreme-grade essence crystals? If converted to high-grade essence crystals, wouldn't that be 1 billion? By the way, how is Hong Mo now? Is his life in danger? The Dark Emperor was slightly worried when he mentioned Hong Mo. He is on the 3rd level of the pendant. He said that he wants to communicate with his main body. I don't know if he will succeed. Ningyu also had some expectations for Hong Mo. After all, Hong Mo's main body's flying sword was of a very high grade. If Hong Mo could benefit from this disaster, his strength would improve qualitatively. He could even give up on the soul-breaking sword and use Hong Mo to fight his enemies. Without the essence crystals, I will need at least 10 days to half a month to recover to my peak. The Dark Emperor said helplessly. All right. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and took out 10 essence gathering stones from his storage ring. These 10 essence gathering stones were obtained by Ningyu when he killed Master Lung. He didn't pay much attention to them after putting them in his storage ring. Who would have thought that they would come in handy now? Dark Emperor, protect me. I'm going to set up an essence gathering formation. With that said, Ningyu's figure flashed, and he burrowed into the ground in front of the Dark Emperor. The commotion caused by setting up the essence gathering formation on the surface was too great. Ningyu was afraid that it would attract trouble. If he set it up underground, it would avoid a lot of trouble. The Dark Emperor had witnessed the power of the essence gathering formation before. When Ningyu took out the essence gathering stones, he immediately released his perception to detect the situation around him. Bang! A while later, Ningyu burrowed out of the ground. Ha! After stabbing the last essence gathering stone into the ground, Ningyu let out a long breath and said in a deep voice, I set up this essence gathering formation in a hurry. It can't be compared to the essence gathering formation under Master Long's cave abode. Just make do with it. Hee, this essence chi is enough. I'll be able to recover to my peak in 3 days at most. With a chuckle, The Dark Emperor sat cross-legged beside the essence-gathering stone and started to absorb the essence chi that was gathering from underground. Seeing that, Ningyu's mouth could not help but twitch a few times. Initially, he had planned to use the essence-gathering formation with the Dark Emperor. But from the looks of it now, he was thinking too much. The Dark Emperor alone could absorb all the essence-gathering formation's essence-gathering formation. He could only drink the northwest wind. Helpless, Ningyu could only take out the soul-breaking sword and plan to recover his damaged soul force first. In order to ensure that the phantom armor did not suffer fatal damage, Ningyu expended a quarter of his soul force to protect it. A quarter of soul force was not a lot, but it was not a small amount either. Luckily, there's a lot of pure soul force in the soul-breaking sword. Otherwise, it would be impossible for me to recover to my peak in a short period of time. The soul-breaking sword contained half of Wei Zhe's soul force and half of Zhang Tianwen's soul force. With his pure soul power, Ningyu was even confident that he could go one step further and increase his soul power to the early stage of 5th grade. After all, his soul force had been maintained at peak grade 4 for a long time and was on the verge of breaking through. Swoosh! In the next moment, Ningyu's peak grade 4 soul force poured out and entered the soul-breaking sword. Although it was a little dangerous, Ningyu could not care less because it was not safe here. He had to recover to his peak quickly and return to the capital. Chi-Chi. The first thing Ningyu devoured was Zhang Tianwen's soul force. Zhang Tianwen's soul force was peak grade 4. Ningyu spent an hour to completely devour it. However, Zhang Tianwen's soul force only helped Ningyu to recover his damaged soul force. It did not help him break through to grade 5. After devouring Wei Zhe's soul force, I should have an 80% chance of advancing my soul force to early stage grade 5. Ningyu focused his eyes and devoured the remaining pure soul force in the soul-breaking sword with all his might. Pa! About 6 hours later, a dull sound rang out from the soul-breaking sword. Such a change caused Ningyu to reveal a delighted expression, and he hurriedly increased the speed of his devouring. Pa! Another 6 hours passed, and when 3 muffled sounds rang out, Ningyu abruptly stood up, and his soul power swept out from the absolute soul sword. Chapter 3:15. Finally, my soul power has reached the 5th grade. Feeling the strength of his soul power, Ningyu was ecstatic. Because his soul power had reached the 5th grade, it meant that he could practice the 5th form of the Netherworld Samsara palm, the rotating palm. Each form of the Netherworld Samsara palm was more powerful than the last. The 5th form, the rotating palm, was even more powerful. Based on Ningyu's prediction, if he could successfully practice the rotating palm, he would be able to put up a fight against an intermediate or advanced primal core warrior. After going through the rotating palm technique in his mind, Ningyu slowly closed his eyes. Whoosh! After a while, he suddenly opened his eyes. The 5th grade soul power above his head wrapped around his wrist, and he struck out with his palm. Whoosh! A powerful palm print separated from Ningyu's palm, almost tearing the void apart with a sizzling sound. However, this palm print only advanced for a dozen meters before it dissipated between heaven and earth. No, the method of practice must be wrong. Ningyu was deep in thought. The rotating palm that he used was similar to the solitaire. It only had the form but not the meaning. The rotating palm should give people a feeling of vicissitudes. If he used it casually, it would at most be slightly stronger than the dominating palm. Thinking of this, Ningyu once again formed a seal and used half of his soul power to practice the rotating palm. 10 minutes later, Ningyu used a quarter of his soul power to practice the rotating palm. Half an hour later, Ningyu used only a tenth of his soul power to practice the rotating palm. Boom! 3 hours later, Ningyu exerted some force in his legs, and his body floated in midair. His hands were wrapped with a strand of soul power. In the next moment, Ningyu struck out 2 palm prints. Rotating palm. After the 2 palm imprints shot out, Ningyu gave a low roar before the remaining spiritual energy within his body poured out, chasing after the 2 palm imprints. When Ningyu's remaining soul force reached the 2 palm imprints, the two rotating wheel palms exploded with a loud bang. The aftermath of the explosion was mixed with Berserk's soul power, and it spread in all directions. This is the real revolving palm. The first palm print looks like an ordinary attack, but the aftermath of the second explosion is the real revolving palm. Looking at the aftermath of the explosion in midair, Ningyu let out a long breath. Only now did he understand what the revolving wheel palm was. Even if he used all his soul power for the second time, others would not think that his soul power was related to the palm print. They would only foolishly think that he was going to use his soul power to fight. Soul-breaking sword. After successfully cultivating the fifth form of the netherworld samsara palm, Ningyu did not remain idle. Instead, he took out the absolute soul sword. The remaining yuan qi in his sea of knowledge poured into the absolute soul sword, and Ningyu slashed out with a sword wave. Solitaire. Solitaire was divided into 4 stages: initial success, intermediate success, greater success, and the final form. Right now, Ningyu had only cultivated solitaire to the initial success stage. The power of solitaire at the initial success stage was already so powerful. One could only imagine how abnormal the power of solitaire at the greater success stage would be. While Ningyu was cultivating solitaire with all his might, a few big things happened in the capital. First, 3 second-rate families discovered that their ancestor's soul tablet had shattered, which meant that their ancestor had died. This caused a huge commotion in the capital. One must know that the 3 second-rate families were very close to the He family. Their ancestor had said that he was going to help the He family's ancestor, but now that he had died, everyone was panicking. It was rumored that the black dog that killed the He family was from the corpse sect. This caused many people to speculate that the 3 second-rate families' ancestor had died in the hands of the corpse sect. After knowing that their ancestor might have been killed by the corpse sect, the 3 second-rate families didn't dare to make a fart and immediately gave up. Second, the Alchemy Union decided to postpone the alchemy competition for a week. The specific reason was inconvenient to disclose. Some people speculated that the Alchemy Union might have discovered something unusual and wanted to rectify it internally. Third, the 6th Prince, Ouyang Yuan, had obtained the support of the Drunken Cloud Manor and officially rose to become a strong contender for the Crown Prince's position. At this point, the situation of the 3 tigers in the imperial family had completely formed. The 1st Prince, the 3rd Prince, and the 6th Prince were competing for the position of Crown Prince. They fought openly and secretly. The Emperor also announced in a high-profile manner that the Crown Prince would represent the Great Xia Kingdom in the imperial battle. Some forces chose to support the princes. Fourth, the Sacred Institute of Danwu College officially announced that Ningyu had become the 2nd core disciple and would enjoy all the rights and resources of a core disciple. Moreover, 1 month later, the Sacred Institute would hold an assessment to select the participants for the 100 Academy tournament. Fifth, when he announced that his marriage with Lu Wei had been brought forward by 1 day. He also spent a lot of manpower and material resources to publicize it, hoping that all the famous people in the capital would attend. There was a rumor that when Hong would announce something that would change the structure of the capital during his son's wedding. He would abolish the position of the current pavilion master of the Snow Domain Pavilion and appoint his son, Wen Yi. Any one of these 5 events would cause a sensation. Now that these 5 events happened at the same time, the people in the capital were somewhat numb. It was not hard to imagine what the capital would be like after these 5 events. Compared to the previous 4 matters, the 5th matter was more important to everyone. After all, the 5th event was the closest to them, and also the one that would soon appear in front of them. Bang! At this time, in a secret room of the Snow Domain Pavilion, when he casually smashed the jade cup in his book. With a cold expression, he said to the man in black in front of him, "Is there still no news of Ningyu?" "Not yet, but we are doing our best." The man in black did not dare to raise his head and said in a low voice, "Bang!" However, before the man in black could finish his sentence, when he rose from the ground and kicked him far away. "What's the point of me raising you? You're all trash." When he said coldly, "I'll give you 2 more days. If you don't bring back Ning Yu's head by the time of my wedding with Lu Wei, don't come back. Yes, young master, I will do my best. The man in black crawled up from the ground and looked at one. Why are you looking at me? You can find Ning Yu just by looking at me? Hurry up and find him. When Yi said angrily. Clang. Hearing this, the man in black quickly left the room. Trash. You're all trash. When he sat down on the chair and trembled with anger. Big brother, we can't rush this matter. When Pai, who was beside Wen Yi, was calm and said, Ning Yu is sinister and cunning. He must be hiding in some corner now. What we need to do is to wait. Wait? When he raised his eyebrows and said doubtfully, will Ning Yu walk into the trap? Hee. Ning Yu will definitely walk into the trap. When Pai smiled and said, I've already investigated. Ning Yu and Lu Wei have an unusual relationship. For Lu Wei, he is willing to take the risk of being caught by us. How can there be such a stupid person in the world? For a woman, he would even give up his life? When Yi frowned. Chapter 3:16. In a dense forest, under a towering tree. Huff! The Dark Emperor opened his eyes and slowly let out a breath of turbid air. Not bad. I've finally recovered to my peak state. After occupying the energy-gathering formation for 3 days, the Dark Emperor finally recovered his mental state to its peak. I wonder if that brat Ning Yu. The Dark Emperor turned to look at Ning Yu. Boom! The Dark Emperor was shocked by what he saw. In midair, a powerful sword wave exploded, and the aftermath of the explosion spread in all directions. Swoosh! The sudden change caused the Dark Emperor's expression to change slightly. He hurriedly flapped his purplish-gold wings and fanned away the aftermath around him. Ning Yu, what move is this? Why is it so powerful? After the aftermath dissipated, the Dark Emperor leaped in front of Ning Yu and asked, putting away the soul-severing sword. Ning Yu said, Supreme 9-purity sword art. This is only the 6th form. The Dark Emperor was stunned. How many forms are there in total? Supreme 9-purity sword art has a total of 12 forms, and each form is stronger than the last. Ning Yu said, if I successfully cultivate the 12th form of Supreme 9-purity sword art, killing you will be a piece of cake. Forget it. With your current cultivation, I reckon that it would be pretty good if you can cultivate to the 6th form. To think that you actually want to cultivate the 12th form. The Dark Emperor curled his lips. Suddenly, the Dark Emperor seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, Right, how is the red skin now? Hearing that, Ning Yu took out the semicircular pendant and separated a portion of his soul force into it. Without stopping at the first 2 levels, Ning Yu's soul force entered the 3rd level. A moment later, Ning Yu withdrew his soul force from the pendant. How is it? The Dark Emperor asked anxiously. I'm not sure about the specifics, but the Red Fiend has already entered the 7-star formation. Shaking his head, Ning Yu said, whether or not it can fuse with the main body will depend on Hong Mo's luck. After consuming more than 10 million top-grade origin crystals, if the Red Devil is still unable to fuse with his main body, I will definitely break his legs. The Emperor of the Dark World was more pained by the top-grade origin crystals. Let's go. 3 days have passed. It's time to go to the capital. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu said in a low voice. Lu Wei is trapped in the Snow Domain Pavilion. We have to go save her. Why didn't you say so earlier? Someone actually dares to trap your little girlfriend? I'll tear him apart. The purplish golden wings on the Dark Emperor's back flapped as he prepared to return to the capital. Dark Emperor, you should enter the spatial ring. There are many people in the capital who have seen you. I'm afraid it will attract trouble. Before the Dark Emperor could fly away, Ning Yu said anxiously, Don't worry, after advancing to the early primal core stage, I can change my form at will. With a slight smile, the Dark Emperor's body shrunk down to the size of a small puppy. Woof woof. After transforming into a small puppy, the Dark Emperor barked at Ning Yu. Holy **T, Dark Emperor, your appearance is too befitting of your identity. In my opinion, you should look like this from now on. Ning Yu's eyes widened as an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. The first time I went to the capital, I came back covered in blood. This time, I will make sure to turn the world upside down." A small pair of flowery wings appeared behind the Dark Emperor's back, and, as they flapped rapidly, they dashed toward the capital. As for Ningyu, he put away the 10 origin-gathering stones and rose into the air, following closely behind the Dark Emperor, and disappeared in an instant. Since when Yi and Lu Wei were going to be married tomorrow, there were a few extra guards at the gates of the capital today. These extra guards were naturally from the Snow Domain Pavilion. In the past, the defense of the capital had always been handled by the eldest prince. Now that there were a few more people from the Snow Domain Pavilion at the gates, everyone guessed that the eldest prince might have joined forces with the Snow Domain Pavilion. Actually, if the 6th prince, Ouyang Yuan, could join forces with the Drunken Cloud Heights, the eldest prince could also join forces with the Snow Domain Pavilion. There were even rumors that the eldest prince had not only joined forces with the Snow Domain Pavilion, but also had dealings with the Assassin Pavilion. In the process of fighting for the throne, many princes would resort to any means necessary. At this moment, not far from the gates, a man and a dog were slowly walking toward the gates. The dog was, of course, the Dark Emperor, and the man was, of course, Ningyu. Why are there so many more guards at the gates? Ningyu's memory was very good. The last time He clan was destroyed, there were not so many guards. Now that there were 3 or 4 more guards, it was no wonder that Ningyu was a little confused. "I can take care of these guards with one hand," the Dark Emperor said casually. "Caution is the parent of safety. I always feel that something is fishy." Since his soul force had advanced to the early 5th grade, Ningyu's perception had become a lot stronger. Just a moment ago, he faintly discovered that there were a few peak experts hiding around the gates. Before he knew whether those experts were friend or foe, Ningyu decided to be careful and not act rashly. Fortunately, on the way, Ningyu had quietly used the appearance-changing technique to change his appearance. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to sneak into the capital. Ningyu guessed that among the guards, there was an 80% chance that there were people from the Snow Domain Pavilion. "I'm here, don't be afraid." Shrugging, the Dark Emperor did not express his opinion. He lifted his short legs and walked toward the gates. Although the Dark Emperor had a disapproving expression, he converged his aura and looked like a pet dog. "You, don't look, I'm talking about you. Stop and let us check." Just as Ningyu reached the gates, he was stopped by an early-stage, true martial realm guard. "Who are you? What are you doing in the capital?" "I'm an alchemist. I want to buy some herbs in the capital." Ningyu took out his 2nd-grade alchemist token and said. Taking the token from Ningyu's hand, the early-stage, true martial realm guard looked at it for a bit and then returned it to Ningyu. "Is this little flower dog your pet dog?" The early-stage, true martial realm guard looked at the Dark Emperor on Ningyu's ankle and asked. "This is a rank 1 demon beast. Linghua dog, it's my pet." Ningyu said, "What the hell? You actually said I'm a Linghua dog. Wait until we enter the capital. See how I'll take care of you." The Dark Emperor was trembling in anger and thought. "Linghua dog?" Slightly frowning, the early-stage, true martial realm guard doubtfully asked, "Why is it trembling? Is it injured?" Ningyu was a little speechless. He thought to himself, "Why do you care so much?" But he didn't show it on the surface, and said, "This Linghua dog is in heat. I have to quickly enter the capital and find it a breeding dog." Ha ha ha. Hearing this, including the true martial realm early-stage guards, and even the passers-by in the surroundings burst into laughter. "If I'm not wrong, this Linghua dog should be a female, right? Quickly enter the capital, find it a strong male dog, and let it have a good time." Another Xiantian great perfection martial artist laughed. "I'll enter the capital now and find a male dog for Ah Hua to mate with," Ningyu hurriedly said. With that, Ningyu kicked the Dark Emperor's butt and said, "Stop trembling. I'll find a male dog for you right now. Wait." Chapter 3:17. Looking at the young man walking towards him, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly concealed his aura. Lu Qing. The young man was none other than Lu Qing, the one who had a conflict with Ningyu on the streets of the capital. Lu Qing was at the peak of the true martial realm. Although Ningyu was not afraid of Lu Qing, he did not want to expose his identity here. After all, Lu Qing was backed by a Snow Domain Pavilion. Before figuring out the situation of Snow Domain Pavilion, Ningyu did not want to have any conflict with Lu Qing. Young Master Lu. The guard at the early stage of the true martial realm looked at Lu Qing and said respectfully, "We will stand guard here. We will not let Ningyu enter the capital. I was just passing by and found this martial artist suspicious, so I stopped to investigate." Waving his hand, Lu Qing walked straight to Ningyu and asked, "What is your name?" Lu Yi, Ningyu said without batting an eyelid, and he seemed very calm. Ningyu's reaction made Lu Qing raise his eyebrows in surprise. Judging from his aura, Ningyu should be a Xiantian full-cycle martial artist, but Lu Qing had a feeling that Ningyu was not simple. Logically, a Xiantian full-cycle martial artist would not be so calm after seeing him. Thinking of this, Lu Qing slightly released his aura and pressed it towards Ningyu. "What are you doing?" Feeling the powerful aura from Lu Qing, Ningyu's face darkened and he growled, "I did not steal or rob. You're going too far." Going too far? Lu Qing's lips curled up and he adjusted his aura and pressed it towards the Dark Emperor. Whoosh! Seeing this, Ningyu's figure flickered and he stood in front of the Dark Emperor. Ningyu was not worried that the Dark Emperor's life would be threatened, but he was worried that the Dark Emperor would suddenly explode and kill Lu Qing. Now was not the time to expose his identity. Puchi. Ningyu pretended to spit out a mouthful of dark red blood in order to match his cultivation of the consummate Xiantian realm. His complexion turned a little pale. "Wow, you're risking your life for a dog." Lu Qing revealed a playful smile. Not only did he not stop, he even increased the pressure of his aura. Could it be that he has discovered my identity? Lu Qing's crazy actions inevitably caused Ningyu to feel a little puzzled. He was confident that he had concealed his aura perfectly. With Lu Qing's cultivation at the peak of the true martial realm, he would definitely not be able to find any clues. However, Lu Qing's current actions were clearly somewhat unusual. It must be a peak expert hiding in the surroundings. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu could not help but clench his fists tightly. His expression was completely gloomy. "If the enemy does not offend me, I will not offend them. But if the enemy offends me, I will return the favor several times over." At this moment, Ningyu decided to teach Lu Qing a lesson. Others were already bullying him. If he continued to endure, he would only be bullied even more. "If you continue to act like this, don't blame me for being impolite," Ningyu shouted in a low voice. "I'd like to see how you'll be impolite today." Lu Qing was indifferent. Instead, he stomped his feet on the ground and charged at Ningyu. Moreover, Lu Qing's fist brought bursts of yuan qi wind as it blasted towards Ningyu's face. Although Lu Qing did not use his full strength in this punch, he still used 80% of his strength. If Ningyu was just an ordinary Xiantian martial artist at the peak of the Xiantian realm, he would only end up being crippled after being slapped in the face. Crack! Facing the fist that was gradually approaching him, Ningyu raised his right hand and unavoidably collided with Lu Qing's fist. A clear and melodious voice resounded in this area. "Ah!" Subsequently, a miserable shriek like that of a pig being slaughtered rang out from Lu Qing's mouth. The sudden change caused the surrounding guards to be dumbfounded. They never imagined that the aggressive Lu Qing would actually be defeated by Ningyu in a single move. This was too nonsensical. Who is that youth? Why is he so strong? I don't know. Maybe he's a peerless genius from Danwu College. It's possible. I know the person who was defeated. His name is Lu Qing. He's very close to one E and the others. He's at the peak of the true martial realm. To be able to defeat a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm in a single move, doesn't that mean that youth's strength has reached the primal core realm? More and more martial artists gathered at the city gate. In the end, they even blocked the city gate. The people outside could not enter, and the people inside could not leave. "Brat, I'll tear you into pieces." Lowering his head to look at his bloody fist, Lu Qing's chest heaved up and down. He was on the verge of exploding with rage. Failed miserably in a simple task. This time, he really failed miserably in a simple task. Ever since he arrived at the capital, Lu Qing had not had a smooth sailing. First, he was schemed against by Ningyu on the streets, and then he was beaten to a pulp by the youth in front of him. Lu Qing definitely had to get back at him. Since you've injured my hand, you'll have to leave your head behind as compensation. With an extremely cold expression, Lu Qing dashed out once more. Like a cheetah, he arrived before Ningyu in the blink of an eye. With his right fist crippled, Lu Qing used his left fist to attack Ningyu. Stubborn fool. Since he had decided to make a move, Ningyu did not intend to hold back. Just as Lu Qing's fist was about to come into contact with him, he raised his right leg and ruthlessly kicked Lu Qing's fist. Punk! In the next moment, Lu Qing's body was like a kite with its string cut, falling straight to the ground. In the end, he crashed heavily onto the city wall. Poochie! Blood spurted out. Lu Qing's left hand was also crippled, crippling a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm in 2 moves. Just who in the world is he? Why does he possess such powerful strength? Even though I don't know who he is, I can be sure that he isn't at the Xiantian realm, but at the true martial realm primary stage. He's already so powerful at the true martial realm primary stage. If he advances to the peak of the true martial realm, how powerful would he be? The whispers in his ears made Lu Qing's lungs explode. He could not help but clench his fists. However, both of his hands were already crippled. Clenching his fists? It would only increase the pain. Lu Qing is injured like this. The snow pavilion will not sit idly by. Yes, if he offends the snow pavilion, that young man will most likely die. Wen Yi is a cruel and merciless person. In my opinion, that young man will not live long. Hey, you'd better leave quickly, or it will be too late. A martial artist at the true martial realm middle stage reminded. Lu Qing has the snow pavilion behind him. Offending him is equivalent to offending the snow pavilion. When Wen Yi arrives, the consequences will be unimaginable. What consequences? Unimaginable, right? However, before the true martial realm middle stage martial artist could finish his words, a gloomy voice sounded. Hearing this, the true martial realm middle stage martial artist's complexion changed dramatically and became completely cold. Swish! Swish! 2 martial practitioners flew over from the city gates and landed in front of the true martial realm middle stage martial practitioner in an instant. Daring to oppose the snow pavilion, I think you must be tired of living. The 2 true martial realm martial artists were none other than Wen Yi and Wen Pai. Chapter 3:18. Kaka. Although Wen Yi was in the late stage of the true martial realm, relatively speaking, Wen Yi's strength was much stronger. The martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm was oppressed by Wen Yi's aura to the point that he could not breathe. His legs made cracking sounds, and he was about to kneel down. Swoosh! How could Ningyu Wen Yi do as he pleased? His figure flashed, and in the blink of an eye, he blocked the martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm. Moreover, Ningyu revealed his aura and clashed head-on with Wen Yi's aura. Chi-chi. As soon as the aura of both sides clashed, Wen Yi's complexion changed dramatically, and he quickly retreated. Because he could feel that the aura emitted by Ningyu was not the slightest bit weaker than his. Who are you? After stabilizing his body, Wen Yi coldly said, You dare to behave atrociously in the capital. Humph. Who I am is not important. What's important is that you are too arrogant. Ningyu coldly snorted, not giving any face to Wen Yi. I am too arrogant? Wen Yi pointed at his own nose, then pointed at Lu Qing, who was lying not far away, and said gloomily, You injured Lu Qing. There is no one in the world who... Stop. Before Wen Yi finished speaking, Ningyu waved his hand and said impatiently, I know what you want to say next. It must be that there is no one in the world who can save me, right? How do you know? Wen Yi was a little surprised. After all, before he said it, Ningyu already knew what he wanted to say. Don't use an old joke. Shrugging, Ningyu said, I think you know why I injured Lu Qing. Right, this martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm. I will protect him today. If anyone dares to touch a single hair of his, they will be my enemy. Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and turned to point at the martial artist behind him. You protect him? Can you protect him? With a sneer, Wen Yi rose from the ground and charged directly at Ningyu. On the other side, Wen Pai also instantly attacked. Almost in the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the middle stage, true martial realm martial artist, then ruthlessly punched with his right fist. Bang! Wen Yi and Wen Pai attacking at the same time had indeed caused Ningyu to have a hard time dealing with him. But that was all. The essence in his sea of consciousness gathered on his fist, and Ningyu sent out a backhand punch. The speed of this fist was extremely fast, so fast that before Wen Yi could react, it had already landed on his chest. The huge force that came from his chest caused Wen Yi's expression to change drastically. He retreated several feet before stabilizing himself. With one successful strike, Ningyu immediately turned his head and lifted his right leg to sweep at Wen Pai. Kacha! The fist and Ningyu's right leg collided, and a crisp sound rang out almost instantly. Ah! Immediately, Wen Pai let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. Wen Pai's strength was not much different from Lu Qing's. If Ningyu could injure Lu Qing in one move, then naturally he could cripple Wen Pai in one move. Not simple, indeed not simple. Wounding Wen Yi and Wen Pai means that this youngster has completely offended Snow Domain Pavilion. This youngster is so strong, he must be the young master of some great force. Since Snow Domain Pavilion's old pavilion master was trapped, Snow Domain Pavilion's influence has been declining day by day. That's right. If this continues, Snow Domain Pavilion will sooner or later fall into the hands of Wen Yi and Wen Pai. Ningyu's victory once again caused a visual impact on the surrounding martial artists. Now, they wanted to know the true identity of Ningyu even more. In the end, who dared to be so rampant in front of the capital's gate? As I said, this middle stage true martial realm martial artist will be protected by me today. Standing in front of the middle stage true martial realm martial artist, Ningyu said in a deep voice, "If anyone dares to make a move on him, then they will be going against me." Really? What if I want to make a move on him? As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, a faint voice slowly sounded. Then, a man in a golden robe walked down from the gate tower. First Prince. It's the First Prince. Why is he here? With such a big thing happening, the First Prince will definitely come. He is responsible for the defense of the capital. Once something happens, he will be at a disadvantage in the competition for the Crown Prince position. In that case, the First Prince should show up. Of course, I also heard that the First Prince has been very close to Snow Domain Pavilion recently. I guess he wants to join forces with Snow Domain Pavilion to compete for the Crown Prince position. The words around did not affect the First Prince. He walked in front of Ningyu, looked Ningyu up and down, and said, "This is the capital. You causing trouble here is contempt for the imperial power. I have the right to handcuff you and throw you into prison." The First Prince's tone was cold at first. Then he changed the topic and said, "If you can pledge allegiance to me, I can consider letting you live." Now was the crucial time to compete for the Crown Prince position. For a strong warrior like Ningyu, the First Prince wanted to subdue him first. Ningyu frowned. When the First Prince was looking at him, he was also looking at the First Prince. The First Prince's appearance was secondary. What surprised Ningyu was the First Prince's cultivation, the peak of the true martial realm. Moreover, the peak of the true martial realm was quite strong, far beyond the likes of Lu Qing. In other words, the First Prince could fight 3 warriors like Lu Qing or even more. I have never thought of pledging allegiance to anyone. Ningyu directly rejected the First Prince. What a joke, to ask him to pledge allegiance to the First Prince. Absolutely impossible. Good, very good. The First Prince was not angry, but said lightly, "Among the people I know, there are only 2 kinds of people, enemies and friends. If you do not pledge allegiance to me, you will be my enemy." As he spoke, the First Prince's expression gradually turned cold. To friends, I will give them the best resources and the greatest power, but to enemies. At this point, the First Prince paused for a moment, then said, "I will let him know what cruelty is." Someone you know? Unfortunately, I am not on the list of people you know, because you don't even know my name, Ningyu said with a shrug. Haha, if I say I know someone, that I know someone. With a slight smile, the first prince flicked his sleeves and said in a low voice, "Do it. Let him know that royal authority is not to be blasphemed." Whoosh! As soon as the first prince finished speaking, two cultivators appeared and surrounded Ningyu. Early primal core stage. Looking at the two warriors in front of him, Ningyu's face was expressionless. These two warriors alone are no match for me. Umph. Shameless boasting. Hearing Ningyu's words, one of the early primal core warriors with a knife scar on his face said coldly, "Today, I will let you know how cruel the Zhao brothers can be." What? It's the Zhao brothers. The Zhao brothers have always been cruel and ruthless. Why would they pledge allegiance to the first prince? The first prince is indeed resourceful. Even the Zhao brothers have pledged allegiance to him. It looks like he is determined to win the fight to be the crown prince. Chapter 319. Ningyu, I'm going to sleep for a while. Wake me up when you're done with this mess. The Dark Emperor lay on the ground, not even lifting his eyelids. The Dark Emperor clearly did not take the Zhao brothers seriously. Restrain yourself. Don't let the cat out of the bag. Ningyu had this slightly worried expression as he transmitted a message to the Dark Emperor. As a prince of the great Xia kingdom, it is impossible for him to not have any pinnacle experts backing him. Whoosh! At that moment, Zhao De of the Zhao brothers had already arrived in front of Ningyu and threw a heavy punch at Ningyu's face. Whoosh! At the same time, Zhao Er appeared behind Ningyu and threw a heavy punch at Ningyu's head. Faced with the powerful attacks of two early primal core stage martial artists, Ningyu's face was expressionless as he retreated several feet. Oomph! Do you think you can escape from the hands of us brothers? Seeing that Ningyu had dodged his fatal blow, Zhao De snorted and immediately rose from the ground, chasing after Ningyu as he retreated. Zhao Er did not stop either and joined the battle. In midair, Ningyu and the Zhao brothers were locked in battle. At that moment, both sides were evenly matched. No one could do anything to the other. Whoosh! Ningyu and the Zhao brothers were evenly matched? No one, including the first prince, had expected this. One had to know that the Zhao brothers could fight against a mid-primal core stage martial artist if they worked together. Ningyu is only in the early true martial realm. How could he be so strong? In my opinion, the Zhao brothers must be holding back. They don't want to kill the young man here. More or less, the first prince is kind and wants to convince people with reason. If the first prince gave the order, the Zhao brothers would have attacked with all their might. Even so, I'm sure that the young man will be defeated in half an hour. Half an hour? I bet that the young man can only last 10 minutes. I bet 5 minutes. The surrounding martial artists all agreed that the Zhao brothers had not used their full strength. As far as they were concerned, once the Zhao brothers attacked with their full strength, that youth would have no way of surviving. Boom! In midair, Ningyu and the Zhao brothers were having a great time fighting. Both sides exchanged blows back and forth, but no one was able to gain the upper hand. However, as time went on, the Zhao brothers became more and more alarmed. They discovered that Ningyu had always been at ease, alternating between tension and relaxation, appearing very calm. Big brother, there's something strange about this kid. His true strength should be at the late primal core stage. Zhao Er said in a low voice after forcing Ningyu back with one strike. The two of us working together can match and even kill a middle primal core stage martial arts practitioner. But against a late primal core stage martial arts practitioner, we will definitely lose. Zhao Hada's expression was gloomy. He wanted to retreat, but there was nothing he could do. In this situation, they represented the royal family and the first prince. Once they retreated, the authority of the royal family would be tarnished. Even if Ningyu did not kill them, the first prince would not let them off. Hence, he could only bite the bullet and fight with Ningyu. First prince, I've said it before. These two martial arts practitioners alone are no match for me. Floating in midair, Ningyu cupped his fists and said to the first prince, I have no intention of becoming your enemy. How about we end things here today? Royal authority is not to be tarnished. Zhao brothers, take him down. The first prince said coldly. Swoosh, swoosh. Hearing the first prince's words, The Zhao brothers gritted their teeth and once again charged towards Ningyu. Since you're looking for death, don't blame me. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu wrapped the Yuan Qi in a sea of knowledge around his wrist, and his body shot out. Dark dominating palm. As he reached the Zhao brothers, Ningyu leaned to the side and struck out with both palms, hitting the Zhao brothers squarely on their chests. Smack! Smack! Although Ningyu did not use his soul power in these two strikes, the powerful Yuan Qi in his palms was still too much for the Zhao brothers to handle. Their bodies were like kites with their strings cut as they fell heavily to the ground. Boom! The defeat of the Zhao brothers caused a deathly silence to fall over the crowd. The crowd stared in shock at the Zhao brothers lying on the ground. Their mouths were agape, and their faces were full of disbelief. The Zhao brothers, who were strong enough to kill a mid-primal core martial artist, had been defeated by Ningyu just like that? To the surrounding martial arts practitioners, the scene before them was like a dream. The Zhao brothers have been defeated. I have to say, this young man has the ability to defeat a mid-primal core martial artist. That should be the case. After all, if the Zhao brothers join forces, they can fight against a mid-primal core martial artist, maybe even kill him. Since their debut, the Zhao brothers have never been defeated. Who would have thought that they would be the first to be defeated by this young man? Never been defeated? You are outdated. The Zhao brothers have been defeated once, and it is said that they were defeated by the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince is indeed the Crown Prince. Even though the Zhao brothers have been defeated, he is still as calm as ever. The crowd turned their gazes to the Crown Prince. At this moment, there was no trace of anger on the Crown Prince's face. It was as if the battle before him had nothing to do with him. This is so infuriating. This is so infuriating. The calmness on the surface could not conceal the slight trembling in the Crown Prince's chest. In the instant that the Zhao brothers had been defeated, the Crown Prince had already sentenced Ningyu to death in his heart. At the very least, within the territory that he controlled, no one could save Ningyu. You are indeed a young hero. Why don't I spar with you? With a smile, the Crown Prince took a step forward and came before Ningyu. As long as you can defeat me, you can leave freely. But if you lose, then there's only one result. At this point, the Crown Prince paused for a moment, then said coldly, "Die." Buzz. In the instant that the word "die" was uttered, the surrounding air seemed to freeze and the temperature dropped to freezing point. Furthermore, an extremely terrifying aura rippled out from the Crown Prince and spread out in all directions. Not good. Everyone retreat quickly. Let's go quickly. The Crown Prince is angry. When the Crown Prince is angry, blood will flow like a river. If we don't leave now, it will be too late. The powerful aura that emanated from the Crown Prince's body scared the cultivators in the surroundings. It had been a long time since the Crown Prince had been so angry. The last time he had been so angry was during the battle against the barbarian tribe. At that time, the Crown Prince had been enraged and had taken the head of the barbarian tribe's general in the midst of tens of thousands of soldiers. Even tens of thousands of soldiers had not been able to stop the Crown Prince. After that battle, the number of people who sided with him gradually increased, and his position in the royal family became even more secure. In the face of the Crown Prince's powerful aura, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed uncontrollably. So his cultivation level is half a step into the Yuan dance stage. No wonder he can explode with such a powerful aura. Frowning, Ningyu did not retreat. Chapter 320. What? This young man's aura is comparable to the Crown Prince's. Who is he? I'm not sure. He should be a few years younger than the Crown Prince, but his abilities are so terrifying. I wonder who will win, him or the Crown Prince. Sensing the powerful aura emanating from the young man, the surrounding warriors were all dumbfounded. They had initially thought that they had overestimated this young man. Who would have thought that this young man would surprise them wave after wave? First, he defeated Lu Qing. Then he defeated the two brothers, one Yi and one Pai. Even the Zhao brothers were no match for him. Finally, the most shocking thing was that the young man before them had an aura comparable to the crown prince's. Ningyu. You are Ningyu. When Ningyu had unreservedly displayed his aura, when he had discovered Ningyu's true identity, when he could not be more familiar with the aura emanating from Ningyu's body. I can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it by chance. After discovering Ningyu's true identity, when he hurriedly shouted, "Uncle G, if you don't come out now, when will you?" Whoosh! As soon as Wen Yi's voice fell, the space around him surged. Then, a cultivator in black appeared. After the warrior in black appeared, he first looked at Ningyu, then said to Wen, "It's not convenient for me to make a move now. It won't be too late for me to make a move after Ningyu and the Crown Prince have finished sparring." Uncle G, is Ningyu really that powerful? Even the Crown Prince is no match for him. When he asked, shaking his head, the elder called Uncle G said, "Ningyu and the Crown Prince's abilities should be about the same." Hiss! Hearing Uncle G's words, when he could not help but gasp, he knew the Crown Prince's abilities. He was extremely powerful and could even fight a late primal core stage warrior. How did Ningyu's strength grow so quickly? It was important to note that back in the Sacred College of Danwu College, Ningyu had not been a match for Wei Zhe, and Wei Zhe had only been a mid-primal core practitioner. In just 3 short days, Ningyu was already comparable to the first prince. Who is Ningyu? Why haven't I heard of it before? A martial artist asked doubtfully when he heard Wen Yi's words. You haven't even heard of Ningyu. I wonder what you do every day. A Xiantian consummate stage warrior said coldly. Listen up. Ningyu is a disciple of Danwu College's Sacred Institute and enjoys all the rights and resources of a core disciple. Core disciple. The martial artist who had just spoken exclaimed, "Doesn't that mean that Ningyu's status in the Sacred Institute is comparable to Zhang Tianwen's?" Zhang Tianwen? Ha! To tell you the truth, during the Sacred Institute's recruitment, he was already defeated by Ningyu. The Xiantian consummate stage warrior pursed his lips, clearly not on good terms with Zhang Tianwen. What? Even Zhang Tianwen was defeated by Ningyu. The shock on the face of the cultivator who had just spoken became even more intense. Rumble. At this moment, Ningyu and the Crown Prince both flew into the air and engaged in an intense battle. Their attacks were not flashy at all, and even the aftershocks were controlled perfectly so that they did not spread in all directions. This old man is not simple. His cultivation is at least at the peak of the primal core stage. The Dark Emperor did not pay any attention to the battle between Ningyu and the Crown Prince. At this moment, his attention was drawn to the old man beside Wen Yi. From this old man, the Dark Emperor felt an extremely strong wave of Yuan Qi. This wave of Yuan Qi indicated that the old man's cultivation was at least at the peak of the primal core stage. This was a little awkward. Although the Dark Emperor had advanced to the early primal core stage and could kill a late primal core stage warrior, he had no chance of winning against a peak primal core stage warrior. I have to tell Ningyu to be careful and escape immediately if anything happens. Other than the old man beside Wen Yi, the Dark Emperor also discovered that there were a few other experts who were not weaker than him hiding in the surroundings. None of those experts were lower than the late primal core stage. The Dark Emperor could defeat and even easily kill a late primal core stage warrior. If the Dark Emperor met a peak primal core stage warrior, he could only run away. Ning. However, just as the Dark Emperor was about to send a voice transmission to Ningyu, the words that were about to come out of his mouth were forcefully stopped. This was because he discovered that there was a martial artist with a 7th grade soul power rushing over from the capital. Under the perception of a 7th grade soul power martial artist, a voice transmission might be discovered. The Dark Emperor could only give up and adapt carefully. Bang! At the same time, Ningyu and the first prince separated from each other in midair. Ningyu, I'll give you one more chance to submit to me, the first prince said in a low voice. He still wanted to subdue Ningyu. After fighting with Ningyu, the first prince realized that Ningyu was not weak and could even be compared to him. If he could subdue such a peak expert, it would be very helpful for him to fight for the position of Crown Prince. Furthermore, Ningyu is also a core disciple of Danwu College's Sacred Courtyard. If Ningyu submitted to him, the Sacred Courtyard might not stand idly by while he fought for the position of Crown Prince. I discovered a very important problem. Ningyu stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "What problem?" The first prince raised his eyebrows and asked, "You keep asking me to submit to you, but I don't see your sincerity." Ningyu said calmly, "Ha ha ha." The first prince raised his head and laughed. Then he said coldly, "Sincerity? I am the first prince of the great Xia kingdom. The position of crown prince must be mine. As long as you submit to me, when I ascend to the throne in the future, power and resources will be yours." The first prince didn't say the last sentence in front of so many people. Instead, he sent a sole message to Ningyu. After all, he didn't dare to say such rebellious words. How can there be such a good thing in this world? Shrugging, Ningyu didn't deny it. The first prince withdrew his aura and said in a low voice, "As long as you submit to me, I can find a way to let you cultivate in the Ice Manor. The damn martial pool is no worse than the Ice Manor." Ningyu also withdrew his aura. "What do you want?" The first prince suppressed his anger. "Nothing." Ningyu said, "Don't you understand what I mean? If you want me to submit to you, it's impossible if you don't take out something practical." "Something practical? I'll take out something practical for you to see." With a cold expression, the first prince dashed out again, charging toward Ningyu. As he moved forward, a silver flying sword suddenly appeared in the first prince's hand. "Little dragon sword. It's the little dragon sword." What's the little dragon sword? In the imperial family, there are two flying swords of extremely high quality. One is the little dragon sword. The other is the great dragon sword. That's right. The great dragon sword is the emperor's sword. Its grade is unknown, but the little dragon sword is a heaven-grade, upper-grade flying sword. It's extremely powerful. High grade, the surrounding martial artists all sucked in a breath of cold air. Some second-rate clans only had middle-grade heaven-step flying swords as their clan protection treasures. Chapter 321. A superior-grade heaven-level flying sword. Feeling the powerful aura from the silver-white flying sword in the first prince's hand, Ningyu's expression turned slightly serious. Although a superior-grade heaven-level flying sword could not display its full power in the hands of a true martial realm martial artist, the first prince was very different from an ordinary true martial realm martial artist. He was half a step into the primal core realm, and his strength was at least comparable to a late primal core realm martial artist. In other words, a superior-grade heaven-level flying sword could display 80% of its power in the hands of the first prince. At this moment, the first prince had an attitude of having the little dragon sword in his hand. Absolute sword wave. Facing the first prince who was almost in front of him, Ningyu did not dare to be slow. With a flick of his wrist, the absolute soul sword appeared. The golden elixir's yuan qi frantically flowed into the absolute soul sword, and Ningyu slashed out with a sword wave. After this sword wave appeared, it did not stop at all and immediately rushed towards the first prince. Wrath of the Little Dragon. The first prince's little dragon sword slashed down in the air, and immediately a sword light no weaker than the absolute sword wave appeared in the air. The sword light took the shape of a dragon and even let out a faint dragon roar. The dragon roar was extremely weak, so weak that martial artists with low cultivation could not hear it all. Chi-chi. The sword light and sword wave collided, and both sides dissipated into nothingness. Oomph. I'll let you see the true power of the little dragon sword. After dispersing the absolute sword wave that Ningyu had slashed out, the first prince coldly snorted. Immediately, the yuan qi in his body flowed through his wrist into the little dragon sword. Buzz buzz. With the injection of yuan qi, the little dragon sword let out a trembling sound. This time, the trembling sound was very obvious, so obvious that all the surrounding martial artists could hear it clearly. The little dragon sword is making a sound. It seems that the first prince is going to use his ultimate move. Yes, It is said that the little dragon sword has the aura of an ancient dragon. I wonder if it is true. We will know after seeing it. If it really has the aura of an ancient dragon, Ningyu will definitely not have a good time. He might even die under the little dragon's sword. It's impossible for him to die, but I'm afraid he'll be heavily injured. Ningyu is a core disciple of the Sacred Institute. The first prince wouldn't dare to openly challenge the Sacred Institute. Just as everyone was discussing amongst themselves, the first prince did something that shocked everyone. He flicked his wrist and threw the little dragon's sword out. Whoosh! The little dragon sword's speed was so fast that before Ningyu could react, it was already in front of him. At the critical moment, Ningyu quickly burned his essence chi and retreated backward. Seeing Ningyu retreating, the corners of the first prince's mouth curled up, and he said in a gloomy tone, competing with the little dragon sword in terms of speed, "Why don't you take a look at yourself first?" The first prince was very confident in the speed of the little dragon sword. Because the little dragon sword had the aura of an ancient dragon in it, the speed of the little dragon sword was even faster than some intermediate primal core stage warriors. In fact, the speed of the little dragon sword was comparable to that of a late primal core stage martial artist. Damn it! Cursing inwardly, Ningyu stopped where he was. After the phantom armor had been damaged, his speed was indeed no match for the little dragon sword. Since he could not beat it, there was no point in running away. He might as well face the little dragon's sword head-on. Go! Seeing that Ningyu had stopped, the first prince shouted in a low voice. Just as Huang Xiaolong shouted, a terrifying aura burst out from the little dragon's sword, dashing towards Ningyu. The aura of an ancient dragon. This aura caused Ningyu's face to darken completely. With Ningyu's current abilities, it was not too difficult for him to withstand this aura. All he had to do was to use the intermediate stage of solitaire. However, Ningyu did not intend to use solitaire just like that. He had to hold back. The aura of an ancient dragon. If I swallow this aura, I can even advance to the intermediate primal core stage. Ningyu felt that this was a little tricky, but the Dark Emperor looked excited. In ancient times, the sky-devouring Hound clan was comparable to the Dragon clan. The two clans were evenly matched. Although it was only the aura of an ancient dragon, the Dark Emperor was very sure that if he could swallow it, he would have a chance of advancing to the intermediate primal core stage. Swoosh! The Dark Emperor was not an indecisive dog. After some thought, his body flashed, and he flew towards the little dragon sword. What is that little dog going to do? Is it crazy? It will only die if it goes there. That little dog is Ningyu's pet dog. It is probably going to protect its master. Protect its master? Hee, a rank 1 flower dewdrop dog wants to protect its master. I wonder if Ningyu can withstand this powerful aura. The Dark Emperor's actions did not attract much attention. Everyone turned to look at Ningyu. Look at that dog's speed. Someone shouted, and everyone's eyes turned to the Dark Emperor again. It was as if the Dark Emperor was sitting on a rocket. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Ningyu. In front of everyone, he swallowed the ancient dragon's aura into his stomach. Silence. Silence. The Dark Emperor's actions caused the entire area to be deathly silent. Gulp. After a short moment of silence, a martial artist in the early stages of the true martial realm swallowed his saliva, his face full of disbelief. What kind of divine being is that dog? It actually swallowed the ancient dragon's aura into its stomach. It is Ningyu's pet, a rank 1 flower dewdrop dog. Have you seen a flower dewdrop dog so strong? Even the flower dewdrop dog king can't be so abnormal. Relatively speaking, the most shocked was the first prince. The ancient dragon's aura in the little dragon sword was something that he had spent a lot of resources to obtain. He even lost a late primal core martial artist because of it. Now that this aura had been swallowed by a little dog, how could he not be angry? Damn it! Damn it! His chest was heaving up and down, and the anger on the first prince's face could be seen clearly. He had never been as angry as he was at this moment. He was furious to the extreme. He wanted to kill Ningyu immediately, but he endured it. After all, Ningyu was a core disciple of the Sacred Institute. Although he could not kill Ningyu, he did not intend to let the flower dewdrop dog go. With a thought, the first prince controlled the little dragon sword to return to his hand. Ningyu, protect me for 10 minutes. I want to refine the ancient dragon's aura. Seeing that the first prince was rushing towards him, the Dark Emperor hurriedly said to Ningyu, Dark Emperor, you only know how to cause trouble for me. Although he said that, Ningyu's hands were not idle. He hurriedly took out the Breaking Soul Sword. The Yuan Qi in a virtual golden elixir poured out and entered the Breaking Soul Sword. Immediately, Ningyu waved the Breaking Soul Sword and slashed out a sword wave. Solitaire. Now, Ningyu could not care so much. The Dark Emperor asked him to protect him for 10 minutes. Even if he had to expose his trump card, he had to last for 10 minutes. Little Dragon's Fury. With a low roar, the first prince slashed out a sword radiance. Hiss. The sword radiance rubbed against the air and let out a hissing sound. Rumble. The next moment, the sword radiance of the little dragon's fury clashed with the sixth form of the nine purities sword art, Solitaire. A loud explosion resounded in the area. Not good. Originally, the first prince thought that the sword radiance of the little dragon's fury could instantly destroy Solitaire. However, things did not go as he wished. Instead, the sword radiance of the little dragon's fury was destroyed by Solitaire. Chapter 3:22. Damn it. The sudden turn of events caused the first prince's face to turn ashen. Relying on the wrath of the miniature dragon, he had once killed a mid-primal core practitioner when he was in the late true martial stage. Now that he was half a step into the primal core stage, he had originally thought that he would be able to defeat Ningyu easily with the wrath of the miniature dragon. Who would have thought that not only would he fail to defeat Ningyu, but he would also be in danger? Furious dragon rises to the sea. At this crucial moment, the first prince bellowed, and the little dragon's sword in his hand vibrated at a strange frequency. In the next moment, the shadow of a miniature dragon flew out from the little dragon's sword and charged towards the Solitaire. Miniature dragon. The first prince is indeed powerful. He has even successfully mastered the furious dragon rises to the sea. It is said that when the royal family obtained the little dragon sword, they also obtained a set of sword techniques. The first move is the wrath of the miniature dragon, and the second move is the furious dragon rises to the sea. The first prince can use the furious dragon rises to the sea. Even if Ningyu loses, he can still be proud. That's right, look at the miniature dragon in the air. Even a late primal core practitioner would not be able to withstand it, right? As the crowd discussed, the Solitaire in the air had already collided with the miniature dragon. In the instant that the two collided, the miniature dragon opened its mouth wide and swallowed the Solitaire into its stomach. The actions of the miniature dragon caused Ningyu to freeze on the spot, somewhat dumbfounded. The Solitaire that he was so proud of had actually been swallowed into the stomach of the miniature dragon. Although the power of the Solitaire had been greatly reduced when it blocked the wrath of the miniature dragon, the fact that the miniature dragon had been able to swallow it was enough to show how powerful the miniature dragon was. Ningyu, if you know what's good for you, quickly admit defeat. Once I use my full strength, you won't even have the chance to surrender. The first prince's lips curled up as he shouted at Ningyu. Boom! At this time, the little dragon shadow that had swallowed Solitaire rapidly expanded and dissipated. Ningyu sneered when he saw the little dragon phantasm disappear. The furious dragon goes to sea is only SOSO. You will not be able to defeat me by relying on it. Solitaire wasn't in peak condition just now. Furious dragon goes to the sea had yet to gain the upper hand against Solitaire, who was not in peak condition, let alone against Solitaire in peak condition. You forced me to do this. The first prince clenched his fists tightly, and his expression darkened completely. The little dragon sword skill's first move, Little Dragon's Fury, and the second move, Raging Dragon goes to sea. The third move, Mad Dragon Roar. At this moment, the first prince wanted to execute the third move of the little dragon sword skill, Furious Dragon Roar. Looking at the little dragon sword in the first prince's hand, Ning Yu's expression turned serious. Solitaire. The origin energy in his consciousness was channeled into the breaking soul sword again. Ning Yu brandished the breaking soul sword and executed solitaire again. It wasn't that Ning Yu was afraid of the first prince, but he didn't want to waste too much time with the first prince. After all, he was able to sense that the old man by Wan Yi's side had already locked his gaze onto the Dark Emperor. For the sake of preventing the old man from making a move against the Dark Emperor, Ning Yu had to defeat the first prince as soon as possible and be free to deal with the Dark Emperor. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. Mad Dragon. Not good. The first prince wanted to execute the third move of the little dragon sword skill, but his expression changed drastically. He realized that the solitaire that Ning Yu executed had already arrived in front of him. The first prince cursed and immediately retreated. Bang! However, the speed at which he retreated was clearly not as fast as solitaire. In an instant, solitaire caught up with him and struck his chest under the first prince's horrified gaze. Puffed. Fortunately, the first prince had gathered all the origin energy in his body into his chest at the critical moment. Otherwise, he would have been severely injured by just this solitaire. Even so, the huge force that came from his chest still sent the first prince flying several feet away and crashing heavily onto the ground. What? The first prince has been defeated? This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Are you blind? The first prince has already been defeated, yet you still say it's impossible. You're really unreasonable. Is Ning Yu really that powerful? To think that even the first prince is no match for him. At least from the looks of it now, he is indeed very powerful. The first prince's defeat had a huge impact on the crowd. Among the many princes, the first prince's abilities were at the pinnacle. On the surface, there was no one who was stronger than him. It could be said that the first prince represented the strongest battle prowess of the royal family below the age of 35. Now that the first prince had been defeated by Ning Yu, didn't that mean that Ning Yu had already dominated the younger generation of the royal family? Swoosh! After defeating the first prince, Ning Yu did not stay where he was. Instead, he immediately retreated. This was because he realized that when the first prince had been defeated, two powerful auras had already locked onto him. Furthermore, the owners of these two auras were at least at the pinnacle of the primal core stage. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ning Yu had just retreated a few feet when two powerful figures charged at him at alarming speed. Damn it! Cursing under his breath, Ning Yu stopped in midair. The Yuan Qi in the golden elixir image was channeled into his fist as he tried to fight the two martial artists head-on. Actually, Ning Yu had no other choice. The moment he retreated, the two pinnacle primal core martial artists would definitely turn around and attack the Dark Emperor. Now that 5 minutes had passed, he still needed to hold on for another 5 minutes. Two pinnacle primal core martial artists. Has Ning Yu lost his mind? He actually dares to fight the pinnacle primal core martial artist head-on. If he's not lost his mind, then he must have lost his mind. Who does he think he is? A pinnacle primal core martial artist would be able to kill him easily. Heh. I wonder if Danwu College will send anyone. After all, Ning Yu is a core disciple of the Sacred College. In my opinion, Danwu College will not send anyone. I heard that Danwu College is in the middle of some kind of meeting and there will not be anyone available for now. By now, the first prince had already stood up from the ground. The corners of his mouth curled up in a smile as he said coldly, "Why don't you consider your own strength first? Even I would not dare to fight the black-white double ghosts." The black-white double ghosts had only attacked because of the first prince's orders. When he had been defeated by Ning Yu, the first prince had sent a message to the black-white double ghosts, instructing them to teach Ning Yu a lesson. The black-white double ghosts took orders from the first prince, and without his orders, they would not attack. In midair, seeing that the two pinnacle primal core martial artists were getting closer and closer to him, Ning Yu's expression became more and more serious. In the end, his face became completely pale. Blue spiritual fire. Soul power. Gritting his teeth, Ning Yu gathered a purple-blue spiritual fire in his left hand, and a strong soul power wrapped around his right hand. he could not avoid the fists of the two pinnacle primal core martial artists. Crack! Crack! The four fists collided, and immediately, two crisp cracking sounds rang out in the area. Swoosh! Following that, Ningyu's body was thrown far away and landed heavily beside the Dark Emperor. Chapter 323. 3 more minutes. Enduring the excruciating pain all over his body, Ningyu stood up with difficulty. As long as he could hold on for another 3 minutes, the Dark Emperor would be able to completely devour the aura of the ancient Flood Dragon. The aura of the ancient Flood Dragon was not weak. If the Dark Emperor could devour it, he could very well advance to the mid-Primal Core stage. When he was in the early Primal Core stage, the Dark Emperor could already kill a late Primal Core stage martial artist. Once he advanced to the mid-Primal Core stage, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. By then, Ningyu would no longer be afraid of the two peak Primal Core stage martial artists in front of him. Black-white double ghosts, you two can leave first. Seeing that Ningyu had been defeated, the first prince took a step forward and waved his hand. I don't need you here for now. I have a few words to say to Ningyu. Without any hesitation, the black and white double ghosts immediately disappeared from the area in a flash. Ningyu, I'll give you one last chance. Submit to me, the first prince said in a low voice. Stop dreaming in broad daylight. You want me to submit to you? Impossible, Ningyu said in a low voice. Good, very good, very good. With a smirk, the first prince pointed at the Dark Emperor and said coldly, I know this little dog is not simple. If you don't submit to me, I'll kill it and make it into dog meat. As soon as the word eat was said, the first prince appeared in front of the Dark Emperor. He lifted his right leg and kicked at the Dark Emperor. The first prince's kick was so powerful that if the Dark Emperor was unlucky enough to be hit, he would be crippled even if he did not die. At this critical moment, Ningyu stepped forward and stood in front of the Dark Emperor. Then, Ningyu raised his right arm and collided with the first prince's right leg, which he could not avoid. Bang! A crisp sound rang out as the two figures were sent flying. Ningyu took 3 steps back, while the first prince took 4 steps back. At this moment, it was clear who was stronger. Ningyu took a blow from 2 pinnacle primal core adepts head-on, and still managed to unleash such a powerful attack. Isn't that so? I was also surprised by that. As expected of a core disciple of the Sacred Institute of Danwu College, his strength is formidable. The sounds of discussion in the surroundings caused the first prince's expression to turn even gloomier. From that move, just now, he could tell that Ningyu still possessed powerful combat strength, at the very least comparable to him. This was very embarrassing for him. He had already ordered the black-white double ghost to retreat. If he were to summon the black-white double ghost again, he would be going back on his words. As the first prince, going back on his word in front of so many people was very disadvantageous to him in his fight for the position of crown prince. However, without the black and white double ghosts, he was no match for Ningyu. At the very least, he could not defeat Ningyu in a short period of time. Whoosh! At this moment, a black-robed martial artist landed before the first prince. Looking at the black-robed martial artist who had suddenly appeared before him, the first prince's heart skipped a beat. Without batting an eyelid, he asked, You are? Ji Ming, young master one has a feud with Ningyu, and he has specially ordered me to come and take him down, the black-robed martial artist said. First prince, there is no need for you to personally deal with a stubborn person like Ningyu. Leave it to me. When he came before the first prince and said, Ningyu and I are already at a point where we will not rest until one of us is dead. It would be best for me to deal with him. In that case, I will let you have him. Although he was rather excited, the first prince did not show it on his face. Instead, he said in a low voice, Don't worry about my feelings. I will not ask about your feud, nor will I interfere. In that case, many thanks. When he first cupped his hands to the first prince, then turned to Ji Ming and said, Uncle Ji, please. Understood. Nodding, Ji Ming's figure flashed as he charged directly at Ningyu. Ji Ming's speed was very fast, so fast that before Ningyu could react, he had already arrived before him. Following that, Jiming's fist brought with it a gust of essence as it landed squarely on Ningyu's chest. Bang! The huge force from his chest caused Ningyu's body to fly back like a kite with a broken string. He only managed to stabilize himself after flying back several meters. Oh! Seeing that Ningyu had not been beaten to the ground, Jiming raised his eyebrows, feeling somewhat incredulous. To be able to block a punch with 30% of my strength, you are indeed not simple. Following that, Jiming's tone changed, and he said coldly, "You will not be so lucky after this." Just as he finished speaking, all the essence in Jiming's body surged out, and he charged forward as fast as lightning. Sensing the strong essence fluctuations coming from Jiming, Ningyu's expression turned extremely grave. 2 more minutes. Gritting his teeth, Ningyu gathered all the essence in his body on his wrist, and instead of retreating, he charged towards Jiming. What is Ningyu trying to do? Jiming is a pinnacle primal core martial artist. Instead of running away, Ningyu wants to fight him? Does he think that just by blocking a blow from the black and white double evils, he can go up against Jiming? A sin committed by God can be forgiven, but a sin committed by oneself cannot be avoided. Regarding Ningyu's crazy actions, the surrounding martial artists all had the same opinion. That was, Ningyu would definitely lose. There was no doubt about it. Since ancient times, there had been people in the early stages of the true martial realm who could go up against a pinnacle primal core martial artist. However, no one thought that Ningyu could do this. Smack! What happened next also confirmed the crowd's suspicions. With a muffled sound, Ningyu flew back several feet, only stopping when his body hit the city wall. On the other hand, Jiming stood where he was, completely unharmed. 1 more minute. Swallowing the metallic taste in his throat, Ningyu once again stood up from the ground. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said to Jiming, "A pinnacle primal core martial artist is only SOSO. SOSO." Jiming seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world as he threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Then he said coldly, "Since you say so, I will use all my strength. Let's see if you can block it." As soon as he finished speaking, Jiming's hands quickly formed a series of seals. As he waved his wrist continuously, the surrounding primordial chi gathered towards his palm with him as the center. After 30 seconds, Jiming's palms suddenly pushed forward. Whoosh! The next moment, an almost tangible palm print appeared in the air. "Go!" Jiming bellowed. The palm print seemed to have eyes of its own as it hurtled towards Ningyu. Damn it! As he stared at the approaching giant palm print, Ningyu's eyes were filled with determination. This palm print was practically the strongest move he had used since he had advanced to the true martial realm. Turning his head to look at the Dark Emperor, whose eyes were still tightly shut, Ningyu gritted his teeth and decided to use all 4 illusory golden cores. Only by using all 4 illusory golden cores would he have a chance of survival. However, just as Ningyu was about to expose the illusory golden cores in his sea of knowledge, he sensed something and hurriedly turned his head. Not far away, a ray of cold light suddenly shot over. At the same time, a somewhat arrogant voice resounded in this region. Chapter 3:24. His arrogant words were mixed with berserk energy fluctuations. It was like a sudden clap of thunder on a sunny day, quickly spreading out in this area. Like a sudden clap of thunder on a sunny day, the surrounding warriors all turned their gazes towards the horizon. Boom! The dog's claw brought with it a violent energy as it viciously slammed into the tangible palm print that was heading towards Ningyu. Chi-chi! The 2 violent attacks collided with a loud bang, and a crisp chi-chi sound rang out. Immediately, the crowd of warriors saw that the tangible palm print that was heading towards Ningyu was quickly dissipating amidst the chi-chi sound. What kind of dog are you? Seeing the tangible palm print that he had struck out being dispersed by the dog's claw, Jiming's expression became serious as he shouted in a low voice. In midair, after the energy waves had dissipated, a tall and sturdy figure appeared beside Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Seeing the figure that had suddenly appeared, the warriors in the area opened their mouths wide, and their eyes revealed an expression of extreme shock. Because the person beside Ningyu is not a human, but a dog. More accurately, it should be a dog that had grown bigger. Isn't it Ningyu's pet dog? When did it become so powerful? Could it really be the Ling Hua Dog King? Even if it is the Ling Hua Dog King, it is impossible for it to have such powerful battle abilities. That's right, Ji Ming is a warrior at the peak of the Primal Core realm. How can a Ling Hua Dog King easily break through his attack with all his might? No matter what, Ji Ming will definitely get back at him. Swish! The whispers that reached his ears caused Ji Ming's face to turn ashen. His powerful attack had been blocked by a dog. He had truly lost all face. Furthermore, that dog seemed to not hear him and directly started talking with Ningyu. Ningyu, that old dog didn't do anything to you, did he? The Dark Emperor sized up Ningyu from head to toe and said exaggeratedly, "If he dares to bully you, I'll skin him alive." Rolling his eyes at the Dark Emperor, Ningyu said in a low voice, "I can sense that there are martial artists with grade 7 soul force in the surroundings. Remember to retract the aura of the heaven-devouring hound. Don't get discovered." Waving his doggy paw, the Dark Emperor said nonchalantly, "You don't have to worry about this. Now that I have advanced to the middle primal core stage, a 7th grade soul power martial artist will not be able to detect my aura." "That's good. It's better to be safe than sorry." Ningyu nodded, feeling slightly relieved. As long as the martial artists in the surroundings couldn't detect the aura of the Dark Emperor heaven-swallowing hound, he and the Dark Emperor would be safe. At the very least, before figuring out the Dark Emperor's true identity, the hidden martial artists would not casually attack him. "Are you two done yet?" Ji Ming clenched his fists tightly, and the anger on his face intensified. In the end, he even jumped up and said angrily, "A dog dares to be so arrogant? You must be tired of living." "Old dog, I don't need you to ask if I'm tired of living, but..." At this point, the Dark Emperor paused for a moment before his aura pressed down on Ji Ming. "I'm afraid you won't live for long." Damn it! Feeling the powerful aura from the Dark Emperor, Ji Ming's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly unleashed his aura and blocked in front of him. After advancing to the middle primal core stage, the aura that the Dark Emperor emitted was comparable to a peak primal core martial artist. Against a peak primal core martial artist like Ji Ming, the Dark Emperor was not afraid at all. In fact, he could even defeat him easily. However, the Dark Emperor did not do so. He was also more worried about the hidden martial artists in the surroundings. Ugh! Even so, Ji Ming was still suppressed by the Dark Emperor's powerful aura to the point that he could not breathe. In the end, he spat out a mouthful of blood. If the last time the Dark Emperor blocked Ji Ming's palm print, everyone was a little surprised. This time, he relied on his aura to make Ji Ming spit out a mouthful of blood. That was truly shocking. Could it be that Ningyu is hiding his strength and pretending to be weak? That's possible. After all, his pet dog is already so powerful. He can't be weak. Even Ji Ming lost to a dog. From this, it seems that the first prince will definitely send the black-white double evils. It's hard to say. The first prince will probably think carefully about going back on his word. Compared to everyone else's shock, the first prince was extremely shocked. He had originally thought that Ji Ming would be able to take down Ningyu. Who would have thought that a little dog would appear? Moreover, this little dog was very powerful. It was so powerful that Ji Ming, who was at the peak primal core stage, was no match for it. Although Ji Ming was not weak in battle, the first prince knew that if the battle continued, Ji Ming would lose without a doubt. Now, even if I have to go back on my word, I will make Ningyu suffer a little. I might even kill him here. The first prince's expression darkened. Then, he gritted his teeth and said to the air, "Black-white double evils, attack immediately. Defeat Ningyu at all costs." And even then the first prince raised his right hand and gently drew a line across his neck. Whoosh! The black-white double evils took orders from the first prince. After receiving the first prince's order, They did not hesitate at all. They immediately appeared in the air and charged at Ningyu. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two figures, one black and one white, flew at a shocking speed and appeared in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Then, the black-white double evil threw a punch at Ningyu's head and chest. The two punches from the black-white double evils were extremely cunning. They completely sealed off Ningyu's escape route and forced Ningyu to take them head-on. Damn it! Seeing that Ningyu was about to be hit, the Dark Emperor's eyes flashed with a vicious look. He immediately rose from the ground and used his muscular body to ram into the black-white double evils. I don't care about this stupid dog. We have to get rid of Ningyu. The black-white double evil's order was to defeat Ningyu at all costs and even kill him. Therefore, they temporarily ignored the Dark Emperor and focused on attacking Ningyu. To them, as long as they defeated or killed Ningyu, it would be very easy and effortless for them to come back and deal with this little dog. Whoosh! However, the black-white double evils had clearly underestimated the Dark Emperor's speed. Before they could attack Ningyu, the Dark Emperor had already arrived in front of them. Furthermore, his body grew once again and pressed down heavily on them. Crack! The black-white double evils felt like their bodies were being crushed by a rock that weighed thousands of kilograms. Their bones were about to fall apart. Although the black-white twin specters had used their yuan qi to dissipate some of the force, their ribs were still fractured by the immense impact. Two screams that sounded like pigs being slaughtered rang out in the area. The black-white double evils' bodies fell heavily to the ground, their faces contorted. The surrounding martial artists did not expect such a dramatic turn of events. Chapter 325. Damn it! Seeing the black and white double ghost defeated by an enlarged Ling Hua dog, the eldest prince's mouth gaped open so wide that an egg could fit inside. The shock on his face was plain to see. The black and white double ghosts were peak primal core warriors. If they joined forces, they could even compete with a half-step Yin-Yang warrior. Now that they had been defeated by a Ling Hua dog, how could he not be shocked? After a brief moment of shock, the eldest prince began to reevaluate Ningyu. To have such a powerful pet dog, it was enough to prove that Ningyu's true identity was very special. He was far from being a core disciple of Danwu College on the surface. It was very likely that Ningyu came from some secret family or a hidden sect. The eldest prince's face became even more ashen at this thought, because he had already thoroughly offended Ningyu. If he allowed Ningyu to leave the capital smoothly, not only would it be difficult for him to fight for the position of crown prince, but even his life would be in danger. Therefore, today, Ningyu must die. Elder Ba, I'm in trouble. Taking a deep breath, the eldest prince tilted his head slightly and spoke to the empty air in a low voice. Do not act rashly. There are at least 3 powerful people around who are not weaker than me. Today's matter should not be blown out of proportion. However, just as the first prince finished speaking, an extremely soft voice rang out next to his ear. Hearing the soft voice, the eldest prince was slightly stunned and stood rooted to the ground. Who on earth was Ningyu? How could there be so many powerful people protecting him? Eldest prince, I can tell you very clearly that one of the powerful people is on the 6th prince's side, and the other is on the 3rd prince's side. Just then, the voice rang in the eldest prince's ear again. As for the other one, at this point, the voice paused and then continued. The strength of the soul is no lower than the 7th rank. It should be someone from Danwu College. 3rd brother. 6th brother. Danwu College. Hearing this, the eldest prince recovered from his daze. His face became somewhat twisted, and he could not help but clench his fists. Phew! Soon, the first prince let out a long breath and regained his composure. Moving his feet, the first prince arrived before Ningyu in an instant. Pa pa pa! Clapping his hands, the first prince said to Ningyu, I didn't expect you to still have a trick up your sleeve. This dog brother of yours is really not simple. You are the dog brother. Your whole family are dog brothers. Being called a dog, the Dark Emperor was instantly displeased. However, Just as his hair stood on end, Ningyu slapped him on the head and said in a low voice, "How can you speak to the crown prince like that? Listen up, this is the first prince, the person who is most likely to become the crown prince of the Great Xia Kingdom. As long as he becomes the crown prince, he will be the emperor of the Xia Kingdom. Emperor, do you understand?" As he spoke, Ningyu touched his nose and ears with his palm. Out of the corner of his eye, the Dark Emperor saw what Ningyu was doing. His heart skipped a beat, and he quickly withdrew his aura. Then the Dark Emperor shrank and said, "I understand, of course I understand, the Emperor is—" Ouch! However, before the Dark Emperor could finish his sentence, Ningyu kicked him in the butt and sent him flying. "You know nothing." After kicking the Dark Emperor, Ningyu patted the hem of his pants and said calmly, "You better behave when you see the first prince in the future." Up in the sky, Old Man Ba could not help but frown after witnessing what Ningyu had done. Did this kid notice my presence? On second thought, Old Man Ba decided it was impossible. After all, with his cultivation and strength, there was no way he could detect a martial artist in the early stage of the true martial realm without anyone noticing. This kid is smart. Old Man Ba quietly withdrew his aura from Ningyu's body. Since Ningyu knew his place, it would be inappropriate for Old Man Ba to keep his guard up. Falling out with Danwu College, the third prince, and the sixth prince at this critical moment will be detrimental to the first prince's chances of becoming the crown prince. As expected of the first prince, he has such a powerful protector. Ningyu let out a sigh of relief when he felt the aura on him disappear. To be honest, his legs were still shaking when Old Man Ba locked his aura on him. With his keen senses, he could easily tell that Old Man Ba was different. At the very least, Old Man Ba had to be a yin-yang realm martial artist. As experienced as Ningyu was, he couldn't afford to let his guard down when being targeted by a yin-yang realm martial artist. That was why Ningyu chose to reconcile with the first prince. As long as he was alive, there was hope. After all, the feud between him and the first prince was already set in stone. It was only a matter of time before the matter was resolved. "Ningyu, I'll treat you to Tianming Tower today. How about it?" The first prince had no idea what Ningyu was planning. He wanted to test Ningyu and see why Ningyu had changed his attitude so quickly. Tianming Tower. The first prince is extending an invitation to Ningyu. That's right. Let's see if Ningyu will accept it. The martial artists around them were all shocked by the first prince's words. They all knew that there were 3 famous restaurants in the Xia Kingdom. Tianming Tower belonged to the first prince. Tianhai Tower belonged to the third prince, Ouyang Hai. Heaven Origin Tower belonged to the sixth prince, Ouyang Yuan. The first prince, the third prince, and the sixth prince were the most likely contenders for the crown prince's position. As long as one accepted the invitation to enter the restaurants controlled by them, it meant that one was bound to them. One's glory, one's loss, all of them. This was a gamble. If one won, one would be rich and powerful. If one lost, one would die without a corpse. Ha ha! Since Big Brother's in such a good mood, why don't we go to Tian Yuan Tower? Suddenly, a loud laugh was heard. A figure flew out from the capital and appeared in the area in the blink of an eye, landing firmly between Ningyu and the first prince. Sixth brother. The first prince's face darkened when he saw the familiar figure. "What are you doing here?" "Hee, big brother. There's no need to be so anxious to see me." With a faint smile, sixth prince, Ouyang Yuan said, "It's rare for us 2 brothers to be free today. Plus, brother Ningyu and I are both students of the Sacred Institute. So I should be the host and invite you to the Tianyuan Tower." "Sixth brother, as the big brother, how can I let you spend money? Or should you and Ningyu go to Tianming Tower together?" The first prince smiled, not showing any anger in his heart. "Big brother, sixth brother, what a coincidence. You're both here?" Just as the first prince and Ouyang Yuan were arguing, another figure dashed toward them at high speed. In an instant, he arrived beside everyone. Whoosh! The eyes of the martial artists in the area widened when they saw the 3 figures standing beside Ningyu. Disbelief filled their eyes. They were very suspicious. Who exactly was Ningyu? And why did he have such a great reputation? Chapter 326. Third brother, are you going to meddle in this matter as well? Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, the eldest prince's face darkened. He initially thought that only he and the sixth prince, Ouyang Yuan, were interested in Ningyu. Now, it seemed that even the third prince, Ouyang Hai, was interested in Ningyu. If the sixth and third princes did not meddle, based on Ningyu's attitude towards him just now, it was very likely that he would accept the invitation. Since the sixth and third princes were involved, it would be very difficult for Ningyu to follow him to Tianming restaurant. Thinking about this, the eldest prince, Ouyang Ming, said in a deep voice, "No matter what, there should be an order of arrival. Big brother, it's not up to you to decide where Ningyu wants to go today." The third prince, Ouyang Hai, smiled and said plainly, "It's not up to sixth brother either." "Oh." Ouyang Ming raised his eyebrows and said, "Who's up to it?" "Father." Ouyang Hai said. Ouyang Ming's heart skipped a beat when he heard Ouyang Hai's words. He felt that something was wrong. The first thing that came to his mind was not whether Ningyu would accept his invitation, but whether the emperor did not trust him. Since he was in charge of the imperial city's security, he was the one who passed on the message when the emperor wanted to find someone. Now that the third prince was the one who passed on the message, Ouyang Hai sensed something unusual. Ignoring the eldest prince's shock, Ouyang Hai slowly walked in front of Ningyu and said, "Father's original words were, 'Interesting, invite him to see me.'" Whoosh! This time, the surrounding martial artists all revealed horrified expressions. "Did I hear wrongly?" "You didn't hear wrongly. He did invite him to see me." "Really, I can die without regrets if I live like Ningyu. If I can be as glorious as Ningyu, even if it's only for one day, I'll accept it." In fact, it was no wonder that the surrounding martial artists were shocked when they heard Ouyang Hai's words. It was because the emperor actually used the word "please," which was very rare. One must know that even if the emperor wanted to meet some Yin-Yang realm monsters, he would rarely use the word "please." Since he used the word "please" on Ningyu, it was enough to show how much he valued Ningyu. Ouyang Hai looked proudly at Ouyang Ming and Ouyang Yuan, and his lips curled into a smile. Then, he turned to Ningyu and said, "Stop wasting time. Hurry up and come with me. If you can gain father's recognition, you can basically do whatever you want in the capital." "You are the third prince." "Ouyang Hai." Ningyu stared at Ouyang Hai and said calmly, "You want to invite me to the palace?" "That's right. This isn't my idea. It's father's idea." Ouyang Hai nodded. "Oh, so this is your attitude when you invite people." Shrugging, Ningyu waved his hand at the Dark Emperor beside him. "The outside world is too dangerous. Let's go back to Dongwu College and have a shelter." After saying that, Ningyu lifted his leg and was about to leave. Swoosh! However, before he could leave, Ouyang Hai's figure flashed and blocked his way. "Father wants to see you. Are you deaf?" Ouyang Hai was very angry. As the third prince, when had he been ignored like this? Moreover, the person who ignored him was only at the early stage of true martial realm. Because Ouyang Hai came from the palace, he was not clear about what happened here. He only knew that Ningyu and Wen Yi from Snow Pavilion had a conflict. "If your father wants to see me, he will have to see if I have time." Ningyu said word by word, "Now, I have to go back to Dongwu College to do something. I won't be accompanying you for the time being." "Humph. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." With a cold snort, Ouyang Hai took a step forward. He gathered all the essence in his body on his wrist and punched at Ningyu. Seeing that Ouyang Hai dared to attack Ningyu, Ouyang Ming and Ouyang Yuan took a step back. They were very clear that Ouyang Hai was courting death. Even if Ningyu did not personally make a move, the little dog beside him would not sit idly by. Moreover, the most important thing was that the pinnacle expert behind Ouyang Hai had been waiting here since the beginning. They did not believe that the expert behind Ouyang Hai would let Ouyang Hai do as he pleased. Ouyang Hai did not know the battle prowess of Ningyu and his little dog, but the expert behind Ouyang Hai clearly knew. Seeing that Ouyang Hai's fist was about to land on his head, Ningyu's lips curled into a smile, and he slowly closed his eyes. Bang! In the next moment, a muffled sound was heard. A figure was blasted several feet away and fell heavily on the ground. The figure that was blasted back was none other than Ouyang Hai. Puffed. Ouyang Hai spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was gloomy. Crawling up from the ground with difficulty, Ouyang Hai shouted in a low voice, "Ningyu, how dare you attack a prince in public? I say, which eye of yours saw me attack?" Ningyu smiled faintly. "Open your dog eyes and look. The one who attacked you just now was not me, but him." As he spoke, Ningyu stretched out his palm and pointed to the other side. There a little dog was lying on the ground with its tongue out. It turned around and gave Ouyang Hai a human-like smile. "The one who attacked me just now was a dog?" Ouyang Hai's face was full of confusion. Just now, he clearly felt that he had hit Ningyu's body. Who would have thought that the one who was blasted back was him? Now that Ningyu said that he was blasted back by a dog, he would not believe it no matter what, because he didn't sense the slightest fluctuation of energy from the little dog. In other words, the little dog was very ordinary. Not good. When Ouyang Hai said that the Dark Emperor was a dog, Ningyu realized that things were going to be bad. What the Dark Emperor hated the most in his life was other people calling him a dog. Ouyang Hai offended him. He definitely would not let Ouyang Hai off easily. Ningyu only wanted to probe the Emperor's intentions. He did not wish to blow things up. After all, once things blew up, it would not be beneficial to everyone. Swoosh! Right at this time, the Dark Emperor exerted some force with his hind legs and suddenly dashed out. The target was shockingly Ouyang Hai. The Dark Emperor's attack speed was very fast, so fast that even Ningyu was not prepared in the slightest. No matter what, Ouyang Hai was also a lobbyist sent by the Emperor. If anything happened to him, it would be slapping the imperial family's face. This crime, Ningyu could not afford to shoulder it. Bang! However, just as Ningyu wanted to stop the Dark Emperor, a black figure suddenly dashed out of the void and appeared beside Ouyang Hai at an extremely fast speed. Furthermore, this figure threw a punch out, perfectly landing on the Dark Emperor's stomach. Damn it! The huge force coming from his stomach caused the Dark Emperor to be blasted back dozens of feet, heavily crashing into the city wall. In fact, the Dark Emperor's body was embedded into the city wall. At the same time that he cursed, the Dark Emperor was also somewhat rejoicing. Rejoicing that when he attacked, he did not use his full strength and left some strength to defend against the danger that could appear at any time. Chapter 327. Swish! Ningyu stomped on the ground and instantly arrived beside the Dark Emperor. First, he pulled the Dark Emperor out from the wall. Then, Ningyu's soul force quietly entered the Dark Emperor's body and carefully checked his injuries. After a while, Ningyu withdrew his soul force from the Dark Emperor's body. "You're His Majesty's man?" Ningyu asked the black-clothed martial artist beside Ouyang Hai. "Elder Tan, you've been here for a long time." Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, the shock in Ouyang Hai's eyes was especially obvious. "Why didn't you stop that dog the first time he attacked me?" Ouyang Hai's chest was heaving up and down, on the verge of exploding. Elder Tan was the pinnacle expert behind him. The reason why he could become a favorable contender for the Crown Prince position was mainly because of Elder Tan, a Yin-Yang realm martial artist. Without Elder Tan's support, he wouldn't even be worth a fart among the princes. "Third Prince, please watch your words," the black-clothed martial artist called Elder Tan said indifferently. "Since you want to know the reason, I'll tell you. You're out." As Elder Tan's voice fell, Ouyang Hai's heart skipped a beat. Out? What did Elder Tan mean? Swish! Suddenly, Ouyang Hai seemed to have thought of something and revealed an expression of disbelief. "Elder Tan, you said I'm out? Whose intention is this?" "Third Prince, don't you understand?" Elder Tan said. "This is His Majesty's intention. His Majesty's intention. His Majesty's intention. Ha ha ha. Imperial Father's intention." Laughing out loud, Ouyang Hai's expression turned cold as he said gloomily, "This is impossible. Firstly, I didn't make any mistakes, and secondly, I didn't do anything out of line. What right does Imperial Father have to declare me out?" From the moment His Majesty said you're out, you're already out. This is an indisputable fact, and no one can change it. Taking a deep breath, Elder Tan said, His Majesty has decided to transfer you to West Mountain City. West Mountain City? Ha ha ha. Ouyang Hai seemed to have gone mad as he suddenly laughed out loud. The Western Mountain City was the most desolate city in the Great Xia Kingdom, and it was extremely far from the capital. Throughout the dynasties, West Mountain City had always been the destination of some frustrated princes. At the same time, Western Mountain City was also the most chaotic place because the powers there were complicated. Without the protection of experts, going there would be no different from courting death. After a short burst of laughter, Ouyang Hai still considered his own safety. Elder Tan, can I bring a few people over? Of course. You should prepare for the next 3 days. 3 days later, someone will follow you to Shishan City. Old Tan said, Can you tell me what level the expert is at? Ouyang Hai asked. After thinking about it, Old Tan walked straight to Ouyang Hai's side and whispered a few words in his ear. What? Ouyang Hai jumped up and glanced at Ningyu from the corner of his eyes. Letting him go to Western Mountain City with me is no different from sending me to my death. Ouyang Hai said coldly, I want to see Royal Father. I want to tell Royal Father personally. Third Prince, this is your chance. Old Tan whispered to Ouyang Hai. You better prepare for the next 3 days. As long as you can join forces with him and gain a firm foothold in Western Mountain City within a month, then this crown prince position. Speaking until here, Old Tan patted on Ouyang Hai's shoulder and didn't continue. Taking a deep breath, Ouyang Hai fiercely glared at Ningyu. Shortly after, he rose from the ground and disappeared. With only 3 days, Ouyang Hai had to arrange everything properly. At the very least, he had to get his forces into Western Mountain City. The Western Mountain City might be in chaos internally, but they were still a solid block to the outside world. If he wanted to get his forces in, 3 days was indeed rather tight, and Ouyang Hai naturally didn't want to waste any of it. From Ouyang Hai's appearance to his departure, Ningyu always felt that something was amiss. It was as though there was a pair of large hands controlling everything. Kiki, little friend Ningyu, the Emperor has invited you. I wonder if you'll give him face? Just as Ningyu was letting his imagination run wild, Old Tan's voice rang in his ears. Since the Emperor invited me, logically speaking, I will definitely go, but as he spoke, Ningyu suddenly changed the topic and said, I have something to do today and tomorrow, so I might not have the time. Ningyu's words once again caused an uproar at the scene. If Ouyang Hai's invitation was a little rash, and Ningyu couldn't be blamed for rejecting him, then Old Tan's invitation was very sincere. Old Tan himself was an Yin-Yang realm expert. Him coming out personally could be said to be giving Ningyu enough face. Is Ningyu stupid? Why wouldn't he agree to such a good thing? You're asking me? Yeah, of course I'm asking you. How the hell would I know if you're asking me? I'm not a roundworm in Ningyu's stomach. Olton seemed to have guessed that Ningyu would reject him. He smiled and said, It's fine. The time will be the day after tomorrow, and the venue will be at Tianyuan Tower. Tianyuan Tower. He was extremely shocked when he found out that the Emperor was going to choose Tianyuan Tower as the venue. Tianyuan Tower was the 6th prince's territory, so it was impossible for the Emperor not to know. Since he chose Tianyuan Tower as the venue, could it be that the 6th prince was already the crown prince? He could not help but tremble when he thought about it. Nevertheless, he was very shrewd, so he quickly hid it. Old fox, are you trying to use me as a weapon? Ningyu secretly became cautious. After all, the fact that the Emperor could control the massive Big Xia Kingdom was enough to prove that the current Emperor was smart. At the very least, given Ouyangming's current cultivation base and strength, it was not enough to fight the Emperor. It was very likely that the Emperor did not treat him as an opponent and only treated him as a chess piece. The day after tomorrow, Tianyuan Tower. See you there. Ningyu suddenly smiled. Before he completely grew up, Ningyu knew that he had to restrain himself. However, he also became extremely careful. After all, he was involved in the change of the imperial family. A slight mistake would cause him to be doomed, eternally. Great. Straightforward indeed. You're bold. The future belongs to young people with drive like you. We're already old. Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Tan's figure also turned illusory. In the end, he completely disappeared. There's a new variable in the Crown Prince contest. Quickly go back and inform the master. Yes, quickly go back. After this incident, there might be more princes emerging. No matter what, the first prince and the sixth prince are still the most promising candidates for the Crown Prince contest. We're only responsible for delivering the message. As for who we should support, it will be up to the clan's great ancestor. After Elder Tan disappeared, the hidden powerhouses left one after another. Among the hidden powerhouses, more than half of them took orders from the capital's second-rate and third-rate clans. These people's clans were fence-sitters who leaned towards both sides. The other half were neutral forces. These forces did not help or care about anyone. Chapter 328. Let's go to outside the capital, when he glared fiercely at Ningyu before leaving quickly. Behind him, when Pai dragged Lu Qing and followed closely behind. Ningyu, do you need me to help you? Seeing Wen Yi and Lu Qing leave, the Dark Emperor raised his front claw and slit his neck. Don't act recklessly. Follow me to Danwu College first. Shaking his head, Ningyu said, when he must die, but not now. Understood. The Dark Emperor knew Ningyu very well. Since Ningyu had sentenced Wen Yi to death, then Wen Yi would definitely die. As for when he would die, it was just a matter of time. Swish, swish. Then, Ningyu and the Dark Emperor's figures flashed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After Ningyu left, all the martial artists, including Ouyang Ming and Ouyang Yuan, left. With everyone's departure, the farce at the capital's gate also came to an end. Swish! No one knew that not long after everyone left, an old man appeared in this area. The old man took a deep breath and murmured, Dongfang Ji is a good dean. He actually found such a good seedling. His martial strength is so strong at such a young age, and his soul force has reached the early stage of grade 5. For such a good seedling like him, 6 hours of cultivation time in the Danwu pool is far from enough, the old man said, shaking his head. Suddenly, the old man seemed to sense something unusual, and his expression changed drastically. Releasing his soul perception, the old man carefully probed the area. After a while, the old man took a deep breath and revealed a grave expression. You're so careless. If that fellow were to sense your aura, I'm afraid your life would be in mortal danger. The old man looked at the imperial family and waved his sleeve, completely erasing the aura left behind by the Dark Emperor. Oomph. That old fellow came pretty fast. After erasing the aura left behind by the Dark Emperor, the old man's expression changed slightly. After a cold snort, the old man tore open the void and entered. Xiao! As soon as the old man left, a white-haired old man appeared. The white-haired old man released his perception and carefully searched for something. A moment later, the white-haired old man withdrew his perception. This doesn't make sense. I clearly sensed a trace of the heaven-devouring hound's aura. Why did the aura disappear without a trace here? The white-haired old man fell into deep thought. He cultivated a unique secret technique. Even if the aura left behind by the heaven-swallowing hound was very weak, he could accurately locate the location of the heaven-swallowing hound with his secret technique. With the heaven-devouring hound's aura, it was still all right. He could locate the heaven-devouring hound. However, without the aura of the heaven-swallowing hound, it would be impossible for him to find the heaven-swallowing hound no matter how capable he was. There isn't much time left. I must find a heaven-swallowing dog as soon as possible. Taking a deep breath, the white-haired old man rose from the ground and headed out of the capital. Meanwhile, Ningyu had already returned to Danwu College. However, the first person Ningyu went to find was Dongfang Ji because he wanted to enter the Danwu pool directly. According to the rules of the Sacred Institute, Ningyu should have 6 hours to cultivate in the Danwu pool. Today, he would use up the 6 hours and strive to advance to the middle stage of the true martial realm. If he used all his trump cards, Ningyu could already contend with a late-stage primal core martial artist, or even kill him. However, against a peak primal core martial artist, or even a half-step into the yin-yang realm, Ningyu would have no way out. Tomorrow was the wedding day of one Yi and Lu Wei. Ningyu knew that with his current strength, if he tried to force his way into Shuiyu Pavilion, it would be like throwing an egg against a rock. Even if Dongfang Ji was willing to help him, it would be difficult to rescue Lu Wei. Hence, Ningyu had an idea, an extremely crazy idea. As long as he could accomplish this, he would have the ability to force his way into Shuiyu Pavilion. At the very least, he would be able to contend with the yin-yang realm old demon. Ningyu, I just received news that you can enter the Danwu pool to cultivate at will. The time is unlimited. Standing in front of the stone gate to enter the Danwu pool, Dongfang Ji was a little shocked. This was the first time in the history of Danwu College that someone could enter the Danwu pool to cultivate at will. When Dongfang Ji received this news, the shock on his face was no less than Ningyu's. Dean Dongfang, are you sure? Ningyu asked uncertainly. I can enter the Danwu pool at will. And there's no time limit? Nodding, Dongfang Ji said, although that's the case, I suggest that you should not enter the Danwu pool for more than 6 hours each time. Because in the past, no student could last 6 hours inside. You're a core disciple of the Sacred Institute. I don't wish for anything to happen to you. Dean Dongfang, I know what to do. Ningyu's eyes revealed a fiery gaze. Although he didn't know why Dongfang Ji would make such a decision, this was the result he wanted. Xianming elders, please take care of Ningyu. Dongfang Ji bowed to the two old men guarding the gate and said respectfully, no problem. Hurry up and scram. I have an impression of this kid. I promise I will take good care of him. Elder Ming kicked Dongfang Ji's butt and pulled Ningyu into the stone gate. After being kicked by Elder Ming, Dongfang Ji didn't even dare to let out a fart and left with his tail between his legs. After entering the stone gate, Elder Ming carried Ningyu like he was carrying a little chick and brought him to the side of the Danwu pool. Swish! After that, Elder Ming flicked his wrist and threw Ningyu into the Danwu pool. Ningyu, if you can't last 4 hours at the bottom of the Danwu pool, I will throw you out and deprive you of the right to enter the Danwu pool in the future. Elder Ming said to Ningyu, stop looking and quickly enter the bottom of the Danwu pool. Otherwise, I will pull you out right now. Swish! Hearing this, Ningyu didn't waste any words and directly sank into the bottom of the Danwu pool. Old Ming, isn't it a little unkind for us to do this? Elder Xian frowned. What unkind? Don't forget our mission. Waving his hand, Elder Ming said, do you want to guard the Danwu pool for the rest of your life? Do you want to spend the rest of your life casually like this? Don't you want to pursue a higher level of the martial Tao? Old Xian, we don't have much time left. If we still can't break through, we might only have 1 or 2 years to live. Sighing lightly, Elder Ming continued, I'm afraid Ningyu is our last hope. As long as he can stay at the bottom of the Danwu pool until tomorrow morning, he will be able to activate the formation left behind by the first Dean. At that time, our mission will be completed and we can leave Danwu College at will. But can Ningyu do it? Elder Xian frowned. Chapter 329. I don't know what's wrong with me to make me stay at the bottom of the martial pool for 4 hours. At the bottom of the martial pool, Ningyu could not help but complain. Although he also wanted to cultivate at the bottom of the martial pool, he could not be forced by Elder Ming. This made him very unhappy. You can't just let me stay for 4 hours. I'll stay for 4 hours. One must have ideals. Otherwise, how would he be any different from a salted fish? Ningyu, you said you would give it to me. Oh my God. The Dark Emperor darted out of the storage ring. Feeling the pure energy around him, he opened his mouth and ignored Ningyu as he began to devour with all his might. Bang! Seeing the Dark Emperor's anxious expression, Ningyu gave him a chestnut. Don't be anxious. Let me ask you a question. Ningyu frowned. Ask away. Don't delay my cultivation, the Dark Emperor said as he tried to devour the pure energy. Ningyu shook his head helplessly. How long will it take for you to advance to the late primal core stage? Late primal core stage? Hearing this, the Dark Emperor stopped. He stared at Ningyu and said solemnly, as long as you can guarantee that I can stay here until tomorrow morning, I will be able to advance to the late primal core stage. No problem. Gritting his teeth, Ningyu said, focus on cultivating. Don't ask about anything else. I will take care of it for you. Whoosh. As he spoke, Ningyu emerged from the bottom of the martial pool. Seniors, please don't be angry. Feeling the powerful aura from the Xianming elders, Ningyu said hurriedly, I have a favor to ask of you. Tell me about it. Elder Ming said with a raised brow. I can stay in a martial pool for 2 hours, or even more. Ningyu said slowly, I hope that no matter how long I stay here, you will not tell anyone. Including Dean Dong Fong, Ningyu added in the end. I was wondering what it was. You actually came out from the bottom of the martial pool for such a small matter? Elder Ming was a little angry. His aura was released once again. You've already stayed at the bottom of the martial pool for 3 minutes. If you go in again, won't you lose? Whoosh. Before Elder Ming could finish, Ningyu's body sank to the bottom of the martial pool. Ningyu's time was also very precious. Since Elder Ming and the others had promised not to tell anyone, there was no need for Ningyu to stay on the surface of the martial pool. More than bringing the Dark Emperor into the martial pool secretly, Ningyu wanted to do something big. Red Devil, what's going on with you? How can you fuse with your main body? Ningyu's soul power entered the pendant's third layer and carefully communicated with Red Devil. I've already used up all of the crystals you gave me. I still need a large amount of energy. The Hong Mo's tone was rather urgent, clearly very anxious. How much energy is needed? Ningyu asked in a deep voice. I don't know the specifics. The energy you gave me, I only blasted a hole in the 7-star formation and took my main body out of the 7-star formation. The Red Devil said, if I want to completely fuse with my main body, I need a lot of energy, more than you can imagine. Upon hearing the Red Fiend's words, Ningyu fell in a deep thought. 1 second. Ningyu only pondered for a second before he made up his mind to let the Red Fiend use its massive suction force to absorb the energy in the martial pool. Although it was risky to do so, riches came with risks. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. As long as the Red Devil could fuse with the main body, the Red Devil's combat power would increase to a terrifying level. At that time, even the Dark Emperor would not be a match for the Red Fiend. Ningyu felt that taking the risk for the Red Fiend was worth it. Gulp. Just as Ningyu opened the pendant, the Red Devil was like a dragon entering the ocean. Instantly, a powerful suction force was emitted from his body, and he frantically absorbed the pure energy around him. Red Skin, leave some for me. The Dark Emperor couldn't help but curse as he felt the pure energy around him disappearing rapidly. We share our blessings and share our troubles. Even a follower understands this logic. Why don't you understand it? Dark Emperor, stop absorbing the pure energy and enter the storage ring immediately. Ningyu said in a low voice, the Red Devil's movements are too loud. If you continue to absorb energy, I'm afraid you will be exposed. To tell you the truth, the two people outside are at the pinnacle of the yin-yang realm. Once your identities are exposed, it won't be a joke. Damn it, you're ugly. Whatever you say is right. The Dark Emperor wasn't a dog who didn't know the severity of the situation. He muttered to himself before turning into a shadow and entering the storage ring. Old Ming, have you realized that the martial pool today is a little different from before? Elder Xian frowned slightly beside the martial pool. Elder Ming was stunned and asked, what's different? The color of the liquid in the martial pool in the past was darker. Why is it a little lighter today? Elder Xian asked. Of course the martial pool is a little lighter today. The energy inside has been absorbed by that brat. Ningyu, Elder Ming said. Elder Xian still felt that something was amiss. Is there a problem with the energy supply? I was wondering why you were so suspicious. There can't be a problem with the energy supply of the martial pool. Elder Ming sighed and said, even if there's a problem with the energy supply of the martial pool, there's nothing we can do. That's true. Elder Xian nodded. What we have to do now is to pray silently and hope that Ningyu can stay at the bottom of the martial pool for a while longer, Elder Ming said softly. That's the only way. Ningyu didn't know about the conversation between the Xianming elders beside the martial pool. Right now, he was fully focused on helping the Red Devil. His early-stage grade, 5 soul power was deployed and entered the 3rd level of the pendant to watch over the Red Devil's body. As the Red Devil absorbed the pure energy in the martial pool, Ningyu realized that the Red Devil's condition was becoming more and more unstable. In the end, he even fell into a temporary coma. Fortunately, the coma didn't last long. The Red Devil woke up after a while. Otherwise, Ningyu really didn't know what to do. Ningyu, help me control my body. I can feel that the energy absorbed by my body will be enough in 6 hours. When that time comes, it will be the time for me to completely fuse with my body. The awakened Red Devil said to Ningyu, "Don't worry, I treat you like a brother. Your problem is my problem." Not only did Ningyu use all his soul power, but even his 4 illusory golden cores entered the 3rd level of the pendant. Ningyu was very clear that this was a crucial moment. He had to do his best to ensure the safety of the Red Devil. Only then would the Red Fiend not suffer a backlash and be devoured by the main body. Chapter 330. Secondary Spirit Body. At that moment, Ningyu thought of this term. The so-called secondary spirit body was when a flying sword produced 2 spirit bodies. Of course, the 2 spirit bodies were produced one after the other. It was impossible for them to be produced at the same time. The conditions for a flying sword to produce a secondary spirit body were extremely stringent. There were a few requirements that had to be fulfilled. Firstly, the flying sword had to be a king-grade flying sword. Furthermore, it had to be a peak-level king-grade flying sword. Secondly, the secondary spirit body produced by the flying sword had to leave the flying sword due to various reasons. Thirdly, and also the most important point, the flying sword had killed many living beings and was stained with a lot of fresh blood. Only by fulfilling these 3 requirements could the flying sword produce a secondary spirit body. The only thing I can do now is to help the Red Fiend get rid of this secondary spirit body. Clenching his fists, Ningyu's eyes were filled with determination. The secondary spirit bodies were formed from vengeful spirits. Once they were allowed to control the flying sword, they would kill nonstop. By then, not only would the Red Fiend be in danger, even the people in the capital would be in danger. Ningyu was not a saint. He did not care much about the life and death of others in the capital, but he was very concerned about the Red Fiend's life. The Red Fiend had a life-and-death relationship with him. Whoever killed the Red Fiend would be going against him. However, the moment Ningyu's soul power entered the Red Fiend's body, he felt a sweetness in his throat. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. I didn't expect the secondary spirit body to be so powerful. I have to think of a way. Ningyu's expression was gloomy. He knew that with the strength of his soul power, it was almost impossible for him to be a match for the secondary spirit body. That was because the secondary spirit body had already gained control of 1/3 of the Red Fiend's body. The remaining 2/3 of the control was still in a state where no one was controlling it. Dark Emperor, help me control the Red Fiend's body. I can't let him move. Gritting his teeth, Ningyu's 4 illusory golden cores entered the Red Fiend's body and began to seize control of it. You always make me do those thankless things. Although that was what the Dark Emperor said, his hands were not idle. He turned into an afterimage and entered the 3rd level of the pendant, completely taking control of the Red Demon's sword. At the same time, Ningyu was already fighting with the 2nd spiritual body in the Red Fiend's body. As soon as he entered the main body of the Red Demon's sword, Ningyu began to wantonly seize control of the sword. In the short span of 15 minutes, he had already seized 1/3 of the sword's control. 1/3 of the control was comparable to the control that the 2nd spirit had painstakingly obtained. I will tear you apart. A 2nd spirit body was not to be trifled with. He had been careless and wanted to get rid of the Red Fiend completely, giving Ningyu a chance. Otherwise, he would be able to seize control of the remaining 2/3 in a matter of minutes. Second, spiritual body. Now, we each have 1/3 of the control over the Red Demon Sword. Neither of us can do anything to the other. Since Ningyu had already seized 1/3 of the control, Ningyu had the capital to deal with the second spiritual body. At this moment, Ningyu displayed his wise side and said, "Why don't we sit down and have a good talk?" Hee, I know what you want to do. The second spiritual body was not anxious. He smiled and said, "Don't think that I don't know what the first spirit is doing. He is working hard to absorb pure energy so that he can fight against me. Help me tell him to stop wasting his efforts, because the Red Demon Sword is destined to belong to me." Shrugging, Ningyu said, "I don't know who the Red Demon Sword belongs to. I only know that the Red Demon Sword does not belong to you now. All right, I'll let you know how powerful I am." The second spiritual body bellowed. The moment he said the word go, the second spiritual body turned into a black fog and charged toward Ningyu. Facing the black fog that was charging toward him, Ningyu's lips curled up. He stood where he was without moving. Whoosh! In the next moment, when the black smoke arrived in front of Ningyu, it suddenly dissipated. Second spiritual body, let me give you a piece of advice. Ningyu said coldly, "You and I each have 1/3 of the control over the Red Demon Sword. You must be dreaming if you want to kill me in the Red Demon Sword. Since that's the case, I'll take back the remaining 1/3 of the control." The second spiritual body transformed into a young man dressed in black. Swoosh! Following that, the black-robed man grabbed at the air, and a black flying sword appeared in his hand. Looking at the black flying sword in the black-robed man's hand, Ningyu's expression turned solemn. This was because he could sense a murderous aura from the black flying sword. A murderous aura that made his heart palpitate. The evil good sword. I didn't expect the Red Demon Sword to produce the evil good sword, Ningyu said in shock. There were many flying swords that could produce a second spiritual body, but there were very few that could produce the evil good sword. It could be said to be an extremely rare existence. The so-called evil good sword did not consist of one sword, but two. One was a good sword, and the other was an evil sword. The good sword was the flying sword produced by the kind intent of the original flying sword's owner, while the evil sword was the flying sword produced by the killing aura of the original flying sword. I didn't expect you to know about the evil good sword. The black-robed man laughed sinisterly. That's right. The flying sword in my hand is the evil sword. You must want to know where the good sword is, right? With a smile, the black-robed man flicked his wrist, and a red flying sword appeared in his hand. Good sword. Seeing the red flying sword in the black-robed man's hand, Ningyu was even more shocked. The good and evil swords had never been able to coexist. They were in a state where they could exist without each other. Why was the black-robed man able to hold the good sword in his left hand and the evil sword in his right? Ningyu, the black-robed man, is not holding the good sword, but a flying sword he created. Don't be fooled by him. Just as Ningyu was feeling puzzled, the Red Demon's voice suddenly sounded in Ningyu's mind. Die! However, just as Ningyu reacted, the black-robed man appeared in front of him and used the evil sword to stab at his soul power. Ding! At the critical moment, the Red Demon used all his strength to burrow into his body. The red flying sword in his hand flew out, blocking the fatal blow for Ningyu. A crisp sound rang out, and the evil sword fell to the ground. Swoosh! Ningyu seized this fleeting opportunity and immediately rushed out. Before the black-robed man could react, he picked up the evil sword and put it in his storage ring. Then, Ningyu grabbed the good sword in front of him and appeared in front of the black-robed man in the blink of an eye. Then, under his horrified gaze, the good sword stabbed into his chest. Looking down at the red flying sword in his chest, the black-robed man opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but his body fell backward. Buzz! However, before the black-robed man's body fell to the ground, it completely turned into black smoke and was absorbed by the good sword. Success! At this moment, The red demon's surprised voice rang in Ningyu's ears, causing Ningyu to tremble. Chapter 331. But the red demon's sword still lacks a master. When the red demon's words rang out on the third level of the pendant, everyone, including the Dark Emperor and even Ningyu, looked ecstatic. To be able to produce a second spiritual body meant that the red demon's sword was at least of the king level. If he was lucky enough to control a king-level flying sword, and one that had a spiritual body at that, Ningyu's fighting strength would increase by at least a few times. By then, even if he did not advance to the middle stage of the true martial realm, he would still be able to fight against a pinnacle primal core martial artist. Ningyu, don't just stand there. Don't you understand what the red demon sword means? Seeing that Ningyu was in a daze, the Dark Emperor hurriedly reminded him. The red demon sword lacks a master now. Quickly leave your soul imprint in the red demon sword so that you can control it. Red demon, will this hurt you? Although Ningyu really wanted to control the red demon sword, he did not want to hurt the red demon. If controlling the red demon sword was based on hurting the red demon, Ningyu would rather not have the red demon sword. Shaking his head, the red demon said, "Don't worry, it won't hurt me." That's good. Hearing the red demon's reply, Ningyu relaxed a little. The next moment, Ningyu separated a bit of his soul power and left a soul imprint in the red demon's sword. As for the good sword, Ningyu did not do anything to it. Instead, he left it with the red demon. The red demon was a spiritual body produced by the red demon's sword. With him in charge of the good sword, it could unleash its greatest power. Whoosh! After about an hour, Ningyu left his soul imprint in the red demon's sword. Then his soul power slowly withdrew from the red demon's sword and left the third level of the pendant. The red demon's sword is indeed much stronger than the absolute soul sword. Oh no! After leaving the pendant, Ningyu heaved a sigh of relief. Before he finished speaking, his expression changed. Swoosh! This was because the red demon's sword had broken through the seven-star formation and emerged from the third layer of the pendant, hovering at the bottom of the martial pool. Subsequently, an extremely powerful suction force erupted from the red demon's sword, unbridledly absorbing the pure energy in the surroundings. Hongamo, what the hell is going on? The suction force that erupted from the red demon's sword was twice as strong as before, causing Ningyu's heart to palpitate slightly. He was worried that he would give himself away. Since the second spirit body has been killed and you have gained control of the red fiend sword, the red fiend sword's rate of energy absorption has increased significantly. The red devil was also a little anxious, but he was still calm. At this rate, it will take another day and night for the red devil sword to recover to its peak. Return to the peak. Ningyu was stunned. He asked, "You mean to say that the red demon sword isn't a king-grade flying sword, but a royal-grade flying sword?" Thinking of this, the passion in Ningyu's eyes intensified. A king-rank flying sword was already very powerful. As for emperor-rank flying sword, that was a heaven-defying Dharma treasure. Although with Ningyu's current cultivation and strength, he could not unleash even a tenth of the emperor-rank flying sword's power. Who wouldn't want such a good Dharma treasure? At its peak, the red demon sword is indeed a royal-grade flying sword. However, I'm afraid there isn't enough energy here to restore the red demon's sword to its peak, explained the red devil. Absorbing at this rate for a day and a night is absolutely not possible. Ningyu knew his limits. At this rate of absorbing pure energy, he would definitely be discovered by Danwu College even if he absorbed for 10 hours, much less a day and a night. For a treasure like the red demon sword, there was no guarantee that the upper echelons of Danwu College would not silence him. It was better to be safe than sorry. After some thought, Ningyu said, "Let's do it this way. Absorb for another 4 hours, then we'll stop." No problem. With a thought, the red devil controlled the red demon sword and began to absorb the pure energy at the bottom of the martial pool. Ningyu had first-level control over the red demon sword, while the red devil had second-level control. As long as Ningyu did not interfere, The red devil could control the red demon sword to do anything. Of course, if Ningyu needed to use the red demon sword, the red devil would completely lose control over the red demon sword. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, 4 hours had passed. Beside the martial pool, Elder Ming could not help but frown as he looked at the martial pool that had suddenly become devoid of ripples. It was bubbling just now. Why is there no reaction now? Elder Ming mumbled. Could it be that Ningyu is drowned at the bottom? Elder Ming revealed an anxious look as he thought of this possibility. Old man Ming, you're worrying too much. Even a Xiantian stage martial artist can easily hold his breath for 4 hours, let alone Ningyu. Elder Xian was a little speechless as he spoke. Right now, Ningyu has already stayed at the bottom of the martial pool for 4 hours. I wonder if he can stay until tomorrow morning. Elder Ming was slightly relieved as he said, a good start is half the battle. I hope he can stay in there until tomorrow morning. Elder Xian took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, whoosh. At the same time, at the bottom of the martial pool, Ningyu shook his wrist and kept the red demon sword into his storage ring. 4 hours was not long, but it was not short either. In these 4 hours, the red demon sword had already absorbed a lot of pure energy. Ningyu also felt that it was time to stop. If he failed miserably, it would not be worth it. Right now, I'm at the peak of the early stage of the true martial realm. I estimate that I only need 2 hours to advance to the middle stage of the true martial realm. With a slightly solemn expression, Ningyu immediately used the spiritual transformation technique and began to absorb the pure energy crazily for cultivation. Beside him, the Dark Emperor also opened its mouth wide and greedily absorbed the pure energy. As a heaven-devouring hound, it was unable to devour so much pure energy and had to endure the torture of 4 hours. For the Dark Emperor, it was extremely uncomfortable. Therefore, as soon as Ningyu put the red demon sword into his storage ring, the Dark Emperor began to devour it crazily. Boom! Cultivating at the bottom of the martial pool was clearly much faster than Ningyu had expected. In just an hour, he felt a dull sound coming from one of the illusory golden cores in his sea of consciousness. Boom! 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 Immediately after, 3 consecutive dull sounds rang out in Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Hearing these 3 dull sounds, Ningyu quickly sank his consciousness into his sea of consciousness. Sensing the changes in the 4 illusory golden cores in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu revealed an ecstatic expression. True martial realm middle stage. At this moment, Ningyu broke through the early stage of the true martial realm and advanced to the middle stage of the true martial realm. Moreover, this middle stage of the true martial realm was not the ordinary middle stage of the true martial realm, but the peak of the middle stage of the true martial realm. He was only 1 step away from advancing to the late stage of the true martial realm. However, Ningyu was not in a hurry to advance to the late stage of the true martial realm. He wanted to properly stabilize his cultivation. The Dark Emperor's absorption of energy is not slow either. He has already reached the peak of the middle stage of the primal core realm. Turning his head to look at the sweating Dark Emperor, Ningyu was just about to retract his gaze when his expression changed drastically. This was because a small vortex had quietly appeared behind the Dark Emperor. Chapter 332. Be careful, Dark Emperor. The sudden change in events caused Ningyu's expression to turn gloomy to the extreme. Without any time to think, Ningyu grabbed the Dark Emperor and charged toward the surface of the martial pool. Whoosh! In an instant, Ningyu charged out from the bottom of the martial pool with the Dark Emperor. F***CK. He's out already? Beside the martial pool, Elder Ming couldn't help but curse when he saw Ningyu leave the martial pool with a black puppy in his hand. It hasn't even been 6 hours. Why? Before Elder Ming could finish his complaint, his eyes widened like Ningyu earlier. His face was filled with disbelief. Boom! Following Ningyu from the bottom of the martial pool, a small whirlpool followed closely behind. The powerful devouring force that erupted from the small whirlpool even made the Xianming elders' hearts palpitate. Even as Yin-Yang stage martial artists, they did not dare to face the devouring force head-on. What are you waiting for? Come over quickly. Elder Ming was indeed a Yin-Yang stage martial artist. He reacted after being stunned for only a second. When Elder Ming reacted, he saw Ningyu floating above the martial pool and shouted, "Even I don't dare to face that devouring force head-on. Come over quickly if you know what's good for you." However, Ningyu did not seem to have heard Elder Ming's words as he continued to float above the martial pool without moving. "I'm so pissed." Elder Ming could not help but stomp his feet as his face turned pale. He wanted to pull Ningyu over, but he was afraid of the devouring force that erupted from the small whirlpool. "I want to go over too." Above the martial pool, Ningyu's face was filled with bitterness. It was not that he did not want to go over, but he could not. With his keen senses, he could naturally sense a powerful aura surging from the bottom of the martial pool and locking onto him. The owner of the powerful aura was much more powerful than the Xianming elders. Being locked on by such a powerful aura, Ningyu knew very well that it was impossible for him to escape. "Red Devil, listen to my instructions later." Taking a deep breath, Ningyu quietly communicated with Red Devil. As he had left a soul imprint in the Red Fiend sword, Ningyu's communication with the Red Fiend was very convenient. No matter how powerful a warrior was, they would not be able to discover it. "Ningyu, what do we do now?" Ningyu was locked onto by a powerful aura, so the Dark Emperor naturally could not escape this fate. Relatively speaking, he was feeling better than Ningyu. After all, his cultivation was at the peak of the middle primal core stage, and he was only a step away from the late primal core stage. This powerful aura did not affect him much. "Wait." Ningyu did not beat around the bush. His words were simple and direct. "Wait?" The Dark Emperor frowned in confusion. Even at such a critical juncture, Ningyu was still able to remain calm. He really had great willpower. "Old Ming, should we inform the higher-ups of the academy?" Old Xian asked worriedly. "Not for now. Let's wait and see." Old Ming said in a deep voice, "Ningyu is not in danger now. Let's not act rashly." "All right." Old Xian nodded helplessly. He also released his aura and paid attention to the movements of the small whirlpool. As long as there were any changes in the small whirlpool, he would immediately leave this place and inform the higher-ups of the academy. The Xianming elders did not know about the powerful aura surging from the bottom of the martial pool. They only knew that the small whirlpool was emitting a powerful, devouring force. If they knew that Ningyu was locked onto by a terrifying aura, they would have long thought of ways to contact the higher-ups of the academy. Drip, drip. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, another 2 hours had passed. 10 more minutes. Suddenly, a soft voice rang in Ningyu's ears. Hearing this voice, Ningyu hurriedly said, "Who are you? What do you mean 10 more minutes?" However, after the voice sounded, it did not sound again for the next few minutes. 5 more minutes. 5 minutes later, the voice rang in Ningyu's ears again. This time, Ningyu was smarter. He did not waste time asking questions. Then, every minute, the voice would be heard once. 1 more minute. When these words rang out, Ningyu's expression turned serious. "Time's up." After a minute, when these 3 words rang out again, Ningyu was shocked to discover that the small whirlpool on the surface of the martial pool had completely disappeared. Whoosh! The disappearance of the small whirlpool was not the end. Instead, it was another kind of beginning. With a whoosh, an illusory figure appeared from the bottom of the martial pool and floated in front of Ningyu. Old Dean, seeing the illusory figure in front of Ningyu, the Xianming elders almost jumped up. The dejection on their faces was swept away and was replaced with joy. This was because this illusory figure was none other than the figure left behind by the first dean of Danwu College. However, the Xianming elders were a little confused. Logically speaking, only by activating the formation could the figure left behind by the first dean appear. And the key to activating the formation was to persist at the bottom of the martial pool until tomorrow morning. Ningyu did not persist until tomorrow morning. Why would the formation be activated? Why would the figure of the first dean appear? A series of questions arose in the minds of the Xianming elders. Xianming elders, your mission is complete. Go and guard the door. Without my permission, no one is to enter. The illusory figure in the air waved his sleeves. Instantly, a powerful airflow flew out and blasted the Xianming elders out of the stone chamber. Not only were the Xianming elders not angry after being blasted away by the airflow, but they were ecstatic instead. The words of the first dean meant that they could leave Danwu College at will from now on and would no longer be restricted. After the Xianming elders were blasted away, the illusory figure in the air said indifferently, "You are called Ningyu? Senior, my name is indeed Ningyu." Ningyu did not dare to be negligent and quickly replied. Although it was an illusory figure in front of him, Ningyu knew that the other party was extremely powerful and was some old dean. Hee, don't be nervous. My name is Wei Zongtian. I am one of the first deans of Danwu College. The illusory figure seemed to have seen Ningyu's nervousness and laughed. One of the first deans? Ningyu frowned. In the beginning, there was no Danwu College in the Great Xia Kingdom. There was only the Dan Institution and the Martial Institution. Wei Zongtian explained, I was the dean of the Dan Institution, and Chu Tianming was the dean of the Martial Institution. A long time ago, the Dan Institution and the Martial Institution were the top colleges in the Great Xia Kingdom. At that time, the Corpse sect suddenly launched an attack on the Martial Institution. Wei Zongtian seemed to be immersed in his memories as he slowly said, the day before the Corpse sect attacked the Martial Institution, Chu Tianming realized that something was wrong. He transferred all the students of the Martial Institution to the Dan Institution and entrusted me to help him look after them. He led the elders of the Martial Institution to fight to the death. In the end, they were surrounded and captured by the Corpse sect. Chapter 333. In the Great Xia Kingdom, there were very few people who knew about the secret of Danwu College. In everyone's opinion, ever since the Corpse sect broke through the Martial Institution, the Dan Institution became the most popular institution in the Great Xia Kingdom. It was understandable that Wei Zongtian changed its name to Danwu College. After saying so much, you might still be wondering why I appear at this time. Wei Zongtian waved his hand, and the Dark Emperor's body uncontrollably came to Wei Zongtian's side. There are two reasons why I appeared at this time. Wei Zongtian probed the Dark Emperor's body with his perception and said, first, because of this heaven-devouring dog. The Corpse sect's desire for the heaven-devouring dog clan is very strong. If the Corpse sect knows that you have a heaven-devouring dog by your side, the consequences will be unimaginable. The Corpse sect attacked the Martial Institution because Chu Tianming saved an injured heaven-devouring dog and brought it back to the Martial Institution to recuperate. I don't know who leaked the news, causing the Corpse sect to send out a large number of people to capture Chu Tianming and the heaven-devouring dog alive. I don't want the tragedy of a Martial Institution to repeat itself. Wei Zongtian's expression was solemn. He then grabbed the Dark Emperor and threw it to the bottom of the martial pool. Dean Wei, seeing Wei Zongtian's rude action, Ningyu's expression changed, and he hurriedly said, Don't worry, I'm just helping this heaven-devouring dog hide its aura. Wei Zongtian waved his hand and said to Ningyu, The second reason I came out this time is because of you. Because of me? Hearing the first half of Wei Zongtian's words, Ningyu was slightly relieved, but he was a little confused when he heard the second half. This martial pool isn't the real martial pool, and the formation at the bottom is only a broken formation. Wei Zongtian closed his eyes slightly, as if he was recalling something. After a while, Wei Zongtian opened his eyes and said slowly, The fact that you can break the broken formation is enough to show that you have hope of breaking the formation at the bottom of the martial pool. The real martial pool? Ningyu said. That's right, the real Wu Qi. Nodding his head, Wei Zongtian continued. The real Wu Qi disappeared with Chu Tianming's capture. If you want to find it, you must have Chu Tianming's keepsake. After saying that, Wei Zongtian flicked his wrist, and a golden crystal ball flew out of his sleeve, heading for Ningyu. "Ha!" Ningyu caught the crystal ball steadily and looked at it carefully. The crystal ball was no different from the others, except that it was golden in color. This crystal ball has a special characteristic. As long as you get close to the real Wuqi realm, it will emit a golden light. Wei Zongqian reminded, "Ever since Chu Tianming was captured by the corpse sect, I have secretly investigated and finally came to a conclusion. The real Wuqi realm might have been moved to the Imperial Palace by the peak experts of the Imperial Palace." Ningyu was still a little confused. He asked, "If the golden crystal ball can find the whereabouts of the real Wuqi, why did it choose me?" I said that if you can break the formation of this Wuqi realm, you can also break the formation at the bottom of the real Wuqi realm. Wei Zongtian said solemnly, "I can tell you very clearly that the reason why it chose you is because you are special. At the bottom of the real Wuqi realm, there's a formation, and only you can break it. Once the formation is broken, you will see a box embedded at the bottom of the Wuqi realm, and that box can only be taken away by the heaven-devouring dog. What you need to do is to find the real Wuqi realm, break the formation at the bottom, and let your heaven-devouring dog bring the box back to Danwu College." Hearing Wei Zongtian's words, Ningyu fell into deep thought. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said, "Dean Wei, I can only say that I will try my best. Whether or not I can find the real Wuqi realm is not something I can decide. No problem. As long as you can bring the box back to Danwu College, I will not let you suffer a loss." With a smile, Wei Zongtian made a grabbing motion in the air with both hands, and a small vortex appeared. With a push of his palm, the small vortex appeared in front of Ningyu. Ningyu's eyes narrowed when he saw the powerful suction force that erupted from a small vortex. This vortex is called the strangulation vortex, and it is very powerful. Just as Ningyu was feeling somewhat puzzled, Wei Zongtian's voice rang out. It can erupt with 3 frightening, devouring forces. Each one of them will cause an yin-yang initial stage martial artist to tremble in fear. In other words, with this vortex, you can even go against early yin-yang stage martial artists. Whoosh! Just as Wei Zongtian finished speaking, the Dark Emperor emerged from the bottom of the Wuqi realm. Feeling the powerful aura emanating from the Dark Emperor, Ningyu was slightly stunned at first, then said, "Dark Emperor, you have advanced to the late primal core stage?" The aura emanating from the Dark Emperor had already reached the late primal core stage. The Dark Emperor also had a look of disbelief on his face. "That's right. I have indeed advanced to the late primal core stage. All right, you guys can go out. Call the Xianming elders over. I have something to say to them." Just then, Wei Zongtian waved his hand, indicating for Ningyu and the Dark Emperor to leave first. Without any hesitation, Ningyu's figure flashed, and he left the secret chamber. The Dark Emperor followed closely behind him. Although there was no danger here, the pressure that Wei Zongtian gave Ningyu was too great, so great that Ningyu found it difficult to even breathe. Given this, it was better to leave the secret chamber. Creak! Just as Ningyu and the Dark Emperor left the secret chamber, the Xianming elders rushed into the secret chamber impatiently. They looked very anxious. Actually, it was no wonder that the Xianming elders were so anxious, because this was their only chance to leave Danwu College, and it might even be their only chance to raise their cultivation. If they grasped this opportunity, they might be able to improve even further and raise their cultivation. If they didn't, they would be mediocre for the rest of their lives. Swish! Outside the Danwu pool, Ningyu asked, "Dark Emperor, what did you do at the bottom of the Danwu pool? How did you advance to the late-stage Yuan core realm so quickly?" Logically speaking, the Dark Emperor needed at least several hours to advance to the late-stage Yuan core realm. With Wei Zongtian's help, the Dark Emperor advanced from the mid-stage Yuan core realm to the late-stage Yuan core realm in less than 10 minutes. Ningyu was very puzzled. "I don't know the specifics either." Shaking his head, the Dark Emperor said, "I only felt my vision go black, and when I woke up, I had already advanced to the late-stage Yuan core realm." It must be Wei Zongtian. Ningyu still felt that Wei Zongtian was a little unusual. He couldn't believe everything Wei Zongtian said, but he had to believe it. In short, no matter what he did in the future, he had to follow his own thoughts and not be led by the nose by Wei Zongtian. Ningyu, what are we going to do now? The Dark Emperor asked. Looking at the surrounding pitch-black night, Ningyu pondered for a moment and then said solemnly. Chapter 334. Bam! In a spacious room in the snow pavilion, Lu Qing stood up abruptly and smashed the chair he was sitting on. I can't wait any longer. I must avenge him. Don't be impatient. We must avenge him. Ningyu will die, but not now. When he said, let's get ready tonight. If Ningyu dares to come tomorrow, we will make sure he never returns. Big brother, Ningyu is not a threat. I am worried about that dog. Frowning slightly, when Pai looked worried. Right now, the snow pavilion can only send 3 Yin-Yang realm warriors. I'm afraid that something unexpected will happen. 3 Yin-Yang realm martial artists are enough. Tomorrow morning, the Zhang family will send powerful warriors to support us. 1 Yi smirked. The Zhang family sees Ningyu as a thorn in their side. They have wanted to kill him for a long time. After the incident at the capital gate, the Zhang family wants to get rid of Ningyu even more. This time, the Zhang family will send 2 Yin-Yang realm martial artists. Even the head of the Zhang family will show up. Although the Zhang family will support us, we have to be prepared. When Pai thought for a while and said, in my opinion, we should give Lu Wei the heart-devouring pill and force Ningyu to give in. Good idea. Let's go. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With that said, when Yi and the others dashed toward the room Lu Swan was in. Creak. Soon, when Yi and the others arrived at the room where Lu Wei was. When Yi, I advise you to let me out. Inside the room, Lu Wei saw one Yi and the others and yelled, you will get what you deserve sooner or later. Get what I deserve. Ha ha ha. When he curled his lips and laughed, we will get married tomorrow. You will be my bride. You will not be able to escape if I get what I deserve. Bah! Lu Wei suddenly spat out a mouthful of saliva and said coldly, even if I die, I will not marry you. Die? When he raised his eyebrows and said, before me, even death is a luxury. All right. Suddenly, when he seemed to have thought of something and said to Lu Wei, are you waiting for Ningyu to save you? To tell you the truth, I have already laid out an inescapable net in the Snow Domain Pavilion. As long as Ningyu dares to come, I will make sure he will not be able to return. Ningyu! Lu Wei's heart skipped a beat. Even an Yin-Yang realm martial artist wouldn't be able to escape death by barging into the Snow Domain Pavilion, let alone Ningyu. I'll kill myself right now. Lu Wei growled with a cold expression. Suicide. Just then, when Pai took a step forward and smiled evilly, you can kill yourself, but as long as you die, your father will be buried with you. You. Lu Wei was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down. When Pai, take out the heart-devouring pill and give it to her. When he waved his hand and said, later, we will go and see if that old fart will let it go. Understood. When Pai waved his sleeve, and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. Bang! When Pai exerted a little force with his thumb, and the stopper of the jade bottle popped open. Then, a pill appeared in Wen Pai's hand. The pill was about the size of a fingernail. It was black and constantly emitted a heart-palpitating aura. Heart-devouring pill. Lu Wei had seen the heart-devouring pill before, so she recognized the black pill in Wen Pai's hand at first glance. I didn't expect you to recognize the heart-devouring pill. This saves me a lot of trouble. Wen Pai first locked Lu Wei with his powerful aura, causing Lu Wei to be unable to move. Then, he held her chin and the heart-devouring pill flew into Lu Wei's mouth. The heart-devouring pill melted in Lu Wei's mouth and turned into liquid, flowing into her stomach. Every 7 days, the heart-devouring pill will take effect. Then, Wen Pai took out a black bottle and shook it, saying, there are 7 pills in here. Every time the pill takes effect, I will give you one to relieve your pain. These pills can only relieve your pain for 49 days. If you want to completely cure the heart-devouring pill, wait until you give birth to 1 or 2 children for me. Ha ha. Then, Wen Pai and the others laughed. After a while, Lu Qing said, Wen Yi, since you're going to marry her tomorrow, why don't you take the opportunity to do it with her now? Wen Pai, who was next to him, echoed, That's right, big brother. If you do it with her, maybe she will follow you wholeheartedly. Wen Yi, if you dare to touch me, I will immediately bite my tongue to commit suicide. Lu Wei said coldly, Bite your tongue to commit suicide? Smiling, Wen Yi walked step by step toward Lu Wei. You can try. Seeing Wen Yi walking toward her, Lu Wei stuck her tongue between her teeth. Just when she wanted to exert force, she found that her whole body was weak, unable to exert any strength. I forgot to tell you, I applied some cartilage powder on the heart-devouring pill. That's why you feel weak now. Wen Pai said, Wen Yi, if you dare to touch me, my father will definitely not let you go. Suddenly, the cartilage powder took effect, and Lu Wei found it difficult to even speak. Not to mention your father. Even if the god of heaven came, I will do it with you today. Laughing, Wen Yi turned around and said, Wen Pai, Lu Qing, you two guard outside. I want to consummate with Lu Wei here. Big brother, I'm afraid Lu Wei is still a virgin. You have to enjoy her. Wen Pai winked at Lu Qing, then immediately left the room. At this moment, only Lu Wei and Wen Yi were left in the room. Lu Wei's whole body was weak, and Wen Yi's eyes were shining. Yi, don't come over. Lu Wei shouted with all her strength. Shout as much as you want. Even if you shout until your throat breaks, no one will come to save you. Wen Yi was like a big bad wolf, walking while saying. Ningyu offended the Zhang family and the crown prince, and the people of the Yin Corp sect are also chasing after him. Wen Yi continued, He is a jinx. No matter where he goes, there will be no peace. Don't have any illusions about Ningyu. If Ningyu comes today, I will write my name upside down. Pa! At this moment, 2 muffled sounds came from outside the door. Kacha! Soon after, 2 figures slammed into the door, shattering the wooden door into smithereens. Dong! Soon after, a slightly thin figure slowly walked in from outside the door and appeared in Wen Yi's field of vision. Seeing the extremely familiar figure in front of him, Wen Yi's pupils shrank, and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. However, looking at Lu Wei, who couldn't move, Wen Yi stopped and coldly said, Ningyu, I admire your courage. You actually dared to break into the Snow Domain Pavilion at this time. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.